Hey, that's right. I'm beginning this stream the same way I ended the last one, with a yawn. So earlier today, about 2 hours ago, I started the third case in the second half of the Great Ace Attorney, in which there has been a terrible accident at the World's Fair that's being held in Britain. And one of the exhibits, which was supposed to be a literal teleporter, blew up. And the person who was supposed to be teleported was smashed into the great central building of the World's Fair, the giant crystal tower, which I guess would be equated to, like, it's basically like the Eiffel Tower, but if it was filled with glass and shit. Like all the way up. And apparently the person who died in this test was a big philanthropist, or he was also another large underworld criminal who had just gotten off of a case that Lord Van Zieks was prosecuting him for because he paid off the jury. However, the game, literally after showing us all of this stuff that was going on, we talked to the scientist, we found out how things blew up, we took a look at the device, we found that Gina is now part of, she's helping out Scotland Yard, which is pretty neat. That Gina is going to be Inspector Lestrade soon. So it's neat seeing her again. But after we did all of that, the game said, hey, we need to find Sholmes and ask him more questions about Van Zieks and why when he was a kid he was much happier and now he's like a vampire. And we need to find out what happened in the past that changed him. And where did we happen to find Sherlock Holmes, or Sherlock Sholmes? Well, he was in a fucking wax museum. So, well, as you can see from the title, we all know where this is going. There is 1,000,000,000% gonna be the guy who died wasn't dead, he's a wax figure, or the body that was transported was a wax figure, but he still ended up dead. I don't know. Who the fuck knows? Let's find out. However, it would be funny if they did introduce the entire wax museum and it turned out wax figures had nothing to do with the entire case. It was just a giant ass red herring. Would be funny as all hell, though. Alright, back to investigating, because Sholmes won't talk to us yet. The bastard. Or he will, but I don't want to talk to him yet. Is this some infamous murderer?
Yes, called Jane the Ripper. All her victims were young women.
I knew it. You can't tell by the way she's holding the knife. Sure sign of a murderer.
Well, yes.
What's the matter, Bruno? I worked it out. I know what she's doing. She's trying to fill that bathtub with blood so she can have a soak in her victim's gore.
Not according to the information about the exhibit on the little board here. It doesn't mention anything about the bathtub.
Really?
Sorry, I don't think it's significant.
I still think it has to be there for a reason. So we can hide in it later, obviously. When something is going wrong, we're like, oh no, time to hide. Now, I think I clicked on the rest that's here. Oh, and Sholmes is gone again. Great. These models are so well made. I can't tell what's a waxwork and what's a real human.
That's how Hurley gets away with making himself a temporary exhibit for the day.
Maybe there's other people posing as exhibits in here then.
Or maybe all the exhibits are real people. And when it's closing time, all the visitors have gone home, they suddenly start moving about.
Ugh. Just thinking about it makes me wish it was closing time already, and I was on my way home. So none of us are pointing out that he's gone again? that he yeeted the fuck out of here? Alright, well, he's just gone. Yeah, he yeeted out of existence. Ah, there we go. He's in the converse window. What is this place? Madame Tuspanos came to London from France 3 years ago, I understand. Since she opened this little waxwork museum last year, it's enjoyed great popularity in London. There are museums like this in Japan too, but the displays are something else. I mean, they aren't made from actual people, are they? The extreme realism of some of these waxwork models is a particular secret of the Tuspanos family, they say. They earned renown during the French Revolution for waxworks of victims of the guillotine. Ugh, that sounds grim. The gruesome scenes were portrayed with such realism in the expressions of the faces of the condemned.
Apparently, the sculptor would make the models directly from the corpses, right there at the side of the executions.
At the... What? That really turns my stomach. That's just one of the several legends about Tuspanos' family. Whether there's any truth to it, I couldn't say. But anyway... This museum houses models of famous people from all over the globe. Nevertheless, the most popular area in the museum, by quite some margin, is the House of Horrors.
A house of horrors?
Of course, visitor numbers are dwindling now as a result of the Great Exhibition, but people really flock here to see the exhibits of some of London's most vile criminals and their gruesome work. Naturally, most of the miscreants portrayed here were sent to the gallows, so they're even stiffer now than the models of them. Have you heard of poor taste? My dear fellow, the public live for poor taste. They yearn to be shocked. So, the hideous exhibits in here are...
They're all portrayals of real events that actually took place.
Is it just me, or did the temperature here just seem to drop? Anyway, I advise you to not think too deeply about what you see here. Oh, he's back to being waxwork, is he? What do you mean by a temporary waxwork, Mr. Sholmes? Exactly what you see. I'm part of the exhibits here, catching these criminals in the act. Catching them? Every half an hour, I home in on a different killer in one of the displays and adopt a new pose to ensnare him. When the members of the public come for a closer look, I offer them my hand to shake. For a shilling, I'll happily allow them to take a photograph with us. Us? Does he mean him and the waxwork murderers in here? But why, Mr. Sholmes? My dear fellow, isn't obvious. For the money. He really roared at me there. Very fitting for the House of Horrors. As it stands, I may struggle to pay this month's rent. And I have the ravenous iris to consider.
Oh, Hurley, I'm so hungry.
If push comes to shove, I shall have to ask you to do your bit, Mr. Naruhodo. What's he threatening to rope me in there now? So, with that in mind, how about a photograph? As a special treat, you may have your pick of the murderers and scoundrels in here. The choice is yours. Maybe some other time. Humph. Remember, Mr. Naruhodo, ignore me at your peril. Back to being waxwork again. Is it just me, or did his final remark there sound like a curse? Well, what is it you'd like to ask me then? Actually, it's about Lord Van Zeeks. Ah, our friend Mr. Reaper. How did you find him? Well, I trust. And so I filled Mr. Sholmes in about everything I learnt. About Lord Van Zeeks, about Professor Harebrain, and about the strange coincidence that they had been at university together. So I'm wondering about what happened to make Lord Van Zeek such a different person.
I'm sure that you know, Hurley.
You said there was something going on here in this exhibit hall before. That something was afoot. And that you believed it related to what I wanted to ask you about. Mr. Sholmes. He suddenly clammed up. Well, it seems you've reached me unavoided. Greetings. Oh, hello? Where did she appear from? And what's she wearing? Could she look any more mysterious? Mommy? I hope you are appreciating my museum. Sorry, have we... Oh no, she's hot. Mr. Sholmes, do you know this? Not again. My apologies. I'm Esmeralda to Spells. This is my museum of waxwork. What? You're the Madame Two Spells? I got 2 spells. Bien sûr, the only 26 years young, I might add. Is that significant somehow? I'm a madame in name only. That adds a certain je ne sais quoi. Right. Firstly, I must apologize for my waxworks. Or rather, one waxwork in particular. That'd be Mr. Sholmes, then. I was led to believe he was a great detective, but he seems unable to settle. Next time you move from your designated exhibit, will be toil and trouble.
She sounds deadly serious.
That's a problem. How am I supposed to ask Mr. Sholmes about Lord Van Zeeks now?
Don't worry, Rooney. We'll just save that for the 3rd act reveal. Let's not forget what Hurley said before, about something being afoot, right here in the museum, I mean.
Yes, I know, but...
I'm so curious. I want to know what's happening here.
Haven't we got enough on our plate already? Did you make all these waxworks, Madame Two Spells? I did. I am the 3rd generation of waxwork artisans, you know.
Gosh.
Gosh!
It was my grandmother who began the tradition in my family. Her fortunes were checkered, living through the turbulent times of the French Revolution as she did. Though, that is, when she acquired a severe affair that led to the astonishing lifelessness. All these waxworks really do look as though they're alive. In fact, they look more alive than Hurley.
What you see exhibited here represents the most atrocious of London's criminal past. All the waxworks were created in the presence of the real people in which they were modeled. In the hours immediately following their executions. That is the secret to the extraordinary lifelikeliness. That sounds terrifying. All walks of life have similar challenges, I'm sure. Even a lawyer such as yourself, to carry out one's par excellence, one must go to extraordinary lengths. My exhibits are a reflection of society. I create only that which the public wishes to see. Ugh. Why couldn't the public have wished for something less horrifying? Do not fear. Sorry? This room is the only one in the museum with such macabre theme. I do hope you'll explore. There are models of famous singers, actors, politicians. Something for every taste, I hope. It was Iris who dragged me straight in here, come to think of it.
Sorry, perhaps I should have eased you into things.
What's the situation with that? Ah, my temporary waxwork model. He approached me some days ago, you see, with a business proposal. Oh, what sort of proposal? My dear madam, what these sparse exhibits need is the addition of a world-famous great detective. Or words to that effect. Ah. Naturally, I'm well aware that Mr. Sholmes is widely known in London as a talented detective. It's great, Detective, actually. He's very specific about it.
Yes, the creme de la creme. So I was keen to come to some arrangement with him, of course. But sadly, we were unable to agree to terms.
Let me guess. Someone wanted to change an exorbitant amount for services?
For a mere £500, I will drive into your cauldron of wax this very moment. Or words to that effect.
Mr. Sholmes might have overdone it slightly with the sales pitch.
Regrettably, the museum has a shortage of funds at the moment due to unforeseen circumstances. So we came to the current arrangement instead.
So what you're saying is, instead of putting the guy's body in the teleporter, it was a wax figure, so you could advertise it by faking the teleporter, maybe? And instead it blew up and it actually got the guy killed, so now you can't say anything and use it as an advertisement? That's my guess. Surely she doesn't need to do what she's doing, though, does she? Does he?
I would think not, but he was very insistent.
I have a 50-shilling problem that must be resolved by the morning.
Or words to that effect.
Yeah, you use words to that effect while we're in trial, and we're gonna fucking objection you into the floor.
It's the pawnbroker. That's what it is. He must have something to redeem.
Is the consulting device not going well? Is this consulting is the consulting detective work not going so well? Wow, could not get that through the old brain. I wonder, could I ask you something?
Bien sûr.
I'm just curious, is anything going on in the museum at the moment? Some kind of incident, perhaps?
Whoever suggested such a thing to you?
Oh, well, it was your temporary wax work over there who mentioned it to me a little. Oh, he disappeared.
A wax model is a work of art, not some tawdry object for trade.
Ah! There you are!
Leaving the exhibit again when you should be working. Do you wish to be melted down? My dear Madame Tuspels, save your reprimands. There are more pressing concerns. The wax can wait. The wax can wait till later. That's in our private time. It's our ideas about your current problem we must throw into the melting pot instead. Personally, I would advise you not to involve the police. Why ever not?
She's turned as white as a sheet.
Because you have at your disposal a great detective, whose services you may employ for a mere 50 shillings. Though, please be aware that No. I insist upon payment in advance. Very well. Let us see if the great detective is able to live up to his name, shall we? Before I engage in my analytical process, I must ask you to clarify something. What, pray, is behind the curtain? That is the Tuspels special exhibit. There is an extra charge to see it. Ah, the special exhibit in the House of Horrors. It must depict a special killer then, I presume. Would you be so kind as to draw back the curtain, I wonder? Ah, absolutely none. There's nothing amiss behind there. Nothing amiss, madam. What about the arm protruding ominously from under the curtain? Ah. I strongly encourage you to follow me to see what lies beyond, before the situation worsens. Yes, very well. I will draw back the curtains, but only a sukan.
Number 139.
I must confess, I peeked behind the curtain earlier. The To Spell special exhibit is a very bleak graveyard scene indeed. And yet, somewhat surprisingly, the waxwork killer one would expect is nowhere to be seen. What does strike one, however, is the portly gentleman lying peacefully on his back on the floor. Didn't we see him before? Well, perhaps, Mr. Sholmes, that man on the floor is the ruthless killer himself? I'm afraid not, my dear fellow. He's a perfectly ordinary London gentleman. Not even a waxwork, in fact. What? As skillfully made as these waxworks are, they are always distinguishable from the real humans. So, allow me to present my two conclusions. The first is that a sizable business transaction has been taking place on the special exhibit. Why would you say that? And the second is that the aforementioned transaction is linked to a serious crime. Ah! She looks as pale as a candle wax. I don't understand. So, Madame To Spells, as you've agreed to my fee, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work.
A great deduction. The game's afoot. Waxworks fate.
To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in the museum. The answer is revealed with a bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. And what does this large amount of money reveal? Ah, not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame To Spells. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by the public notice. Waxwork for sale. Your business has hit its hard times, it would seem. In short, you sold the infamous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of £200. None? Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Ah. Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. It would appear that you twisted this gentleman around your little finger most effectively. What are you suggesting? He rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of £200. Only when he came to hand the money over did it occur to him what an extraordinary amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And as a result, the scene we see before us, he collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer in his special exhibit fetched a killer price. We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams are not plagued with regret.
Sold for cash. Topic 2, conclusion.
The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider the problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about the conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief, such as is worn by a policeman with a secret sign to fellow membership that the force of the crime is being perpetrated. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman currently investigating this museum. I know him well, in fact. It's Sergeant John Clay. What are you talking about? The man's quite a celebrity. He received triple accolades last year's policing awards. But Next, we'll turn our attention to the old man sat before him with a particularly insightful gaze. I've been watching closely as he hasn't moved a muscle, almost, in fact, as if he were waxwork. Ah, but you... The reaction only confirms my suspicions, madam. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. Threepence. A tragically low price, you might say. Though, perhaps the going rate for aging waxwork riddled with cracks. And yet you sold it to the portly gentleman for an exorbitant £200. The sort of plucky behaviour that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard. Isn't that so, madam? I do not... Yes, the waxwork you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in their custody as we speak. The old man must be reunited with his grave in the special exhibit, and not a moment too soon.
Conclusion discovered already.
Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle.
She's got the wax ready.
I see I've stunned you all to silence.
You have, Hurley. You have. And you've obviously upset this young lady in the process. Her cauldron looks awfully hot.
If I could just bring up one point, Mr. Sholmes.
Ah, the notorious Naruhodo, 1 point. I'm all ears, my dear fellow.
According to your deduction, then, the special exhibit featured this old policeman? So, that would mean that he's a particularly ruthless murderer, wouldn't it?
The killer policeman, Arthur Mole.
Sorry?
It was a mysterious series of murders that rattled the capital only last year. The police rushed to the scene every time, only to find the culprit had disappeared into the ether.
And it turned out the culprit was a policeman himself, a senior officer by the name of Ottermole.
You mean that's who the sinister-looking old man there is supposed to be?
Indeed, it is particularly grim-faced, is it not? Unforgettable, in fact, yes. I remember the odious countenance only too well.
But it's £200 a lot of money for a wax model?
It would be enough to afford one of the latest steam carriages, if that puts things into perspective.
So, it's quite a lot then. Just douse them already.
Is there anything else you wish to add, before I melt you down?
That bubbling wax is looking more and more ominous.
The smell of that molten wax is starting to worry me.
Mr. Sholmes did more or less just accuse her face to face, so I think I might have to call on your assistance here, Iris. Is that alright? To make some minor corrections to the great detective's great deductions?
Of course it's alright. We'll soon set things straight.
Well, let's get started then, shall we?
Before Madame Two Spells vents her anger.
Just what I was waiting to hear, my dear fellow. So, Madame Two Spells, in accordance with our agreement, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work.
Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes.
To begin with, we must ask ourselves, what exactly is afoot here with the museum? The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200? That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Ah, not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Two Spells. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed at that public notice.
She definitely looked in this direction, it's true.
but I'm not sure she sell any of her waxworks even for 200 pounds.
Oh?
She must pour her heart and soul into making them, don't you think? Over and above the wax. If it were me, I wouldn't sell them for anything.
For that much money, I would, but it sounds like that makes me a bad person. Well, anyway, I wonder if the 200 pounds could have some other significance.
Let's follow that furtive glance again and see if there's anything that could explain it.
There we are.
What's that note doing pinned on the wall there?
Oh yes, let's see. Dear Madam Two Spells, we've taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is 200 pounds. Have the money ready by noon on 23rd of October.
What?
This is...
It's just like that sort of thing that's left behind when someone's kidnapped. Yes, it's a ransom note.
Exactly.
Take that!
The significance of the 200 pounds is revealed by that ransom note. Quite so, and we must congratulate these criminals on their inventiveness abducting a waxwork.
Oh,
200 pounds was no small ransom fee, and yet you clearly intend to pay it.
The model in question has special importance, so I put together all the money I have.
In summary then, the 200 pounds you have in your handbag is ransom money. Now, let us explore the next curiosity in which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the 200 pounds. So, if the waxwork was kidnapped, where does that leave us in terms of who this man is?
we could just ask him when he comes around.
I think the point of this exercise is to understand the beauty of the deduction process, Iris.
Yes, you're right. Riley's trying so hard, we mustn't let him down.
Well, there's a little doubt that he suffered a shock. That much seems clear. But in that case, what's Madame Two Spells trying to hide? Let's have a closer look around. Is there, like, I'm trying to see what's behind her back, but... Ah, okay, once I started moving the thing.
This is just Madame Two Spells' right hand, isn't it?
Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand after all.
Oh, but wait a minute. There's a left hand. This is the left hand as well, look.
Don't say much creepy things, Iris, please.
And it seems very stiff, too. In fact, it's really hard.
You mean... it's made of wax? Oh, it's a hand from the statue? What dealt that man such a shocking blow, of course? The waxwork hand. Indeed, with a solid waxwork limb, one could deliver a very substantial blow. How could you... The hand protruding from the bottom of your cape. It ought to be a right hand, but closer inspection reveals it to, in fact, be a left hand.
Ah,
And somewhat masculine as well. In other words, it does not belong to you, madam. This is the hand of a waxwork model.
or kill.
Some of the visitors in my museum can be troublesome. They meddle with the exhibits and cause damage.
So you mean that arm...
Yes, this gentleman saw fit to try to remove it as a souvenir.
No small keepsake. Like taking a whole branch from a cherry tree when you go to view blossoms.
I'm afraid I had to teach this man a lesson.
You confronted the man and tried to take the arm back. And the result, the scene we see before us, he was not unconscious. The point we made need to revisit later, but for the time being, we have only our conclusion. Yes, the killer in the special exhibit has been kidnapped. Well, no, see, it's not dead anime mom hair, otherwise it would be over her shoulder. It's behind her back, and it's longer. Remember, the dead mom hair is shorter and over the shoulder. Those are key exhibits. This is the... Even though she already said she was in the 20s, the current hair is like the aging but still, like, maintaining her beauty, like, hairstyle. Like, it was even, like, Three Houses. There was the one teacher had the same hairstyle and everything. Whatever the fuck her name was. The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment.
You cannot possibly...
What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man sitting over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe the neckerchief. According to Mr. Sholmes, the yellow neckerchief is a sign of the policeman that the crime is underway.
A way of communicating with the colleagues without revealing his identity, yes. It's a secret that's closely guarded by Scotland Yard.
That Mr. Sholmes didn't hesitate to give away.
Well, uncovering secrets is in any way true detective's nature, of course.
Right. Anyway, judging from Madame Two-Spell's reaction to Mr. Sholmes' deduction, I think perhaps we might not have identified the man quite correctly. Yeah, that's the missing waxwork dummy.
Take that!
Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe the shoulder stub. No such boneless human walks this earth. Of that I can assure you. In other words, the man standing here, the young Sergeant John Clay, is in fact, defying all odds, a waxwork model. I seem to remember it was you who concluded that he was a real person in the first place, Mr. Sholmes. He has become quite a celebrity in London, being the winner of no less than 3 policing awards last year. I simply had to make a model of the man. Naturally, what other explanation could there be? And it was the detective's arm that was pulled off by the man on the floor with the special exhibit, wasn't it? Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with a particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely as he hasn't moved a muscle, almost, in fact, as if he were a waxwork. Ah, but you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madam. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. A killer policeman? Called Otter Mole, was it? Was he well known?
It was all over the papers last year, but I can't say I know what he looks like. It's a very low price, though. Threepence isn't much money.
Only enough for a few measly hours of gas in Mr. Garredeb's delightful lodgings, in fact. So, this is a special killer taken from the special exhibit, is it? The waxwork that somebody stole from the museum and tried to ransom for £200? Is the crusty old killer policeman Otter Mole? Really?
Perhaps you should have a good look around again, if another idea crops up.
Well, my guess is it's... Yeah, his... Yeah. Look at this! The old man's tapping his foot like crazy!
He seems to be fast asleep, though.
He's not tapping his foot consciously, then. So you mean...
It must be a twitch.
Never mind that. The point is, waxworks don't tap their feet. Or twitch. And look at his arm, too. We've seen a scarf like this somewhere else around here, haven't we? Yeah, it's the one around the guy's arm. I don't believe it. It's the secret sign that lets other detectives know criminal activity is underway.
Yes.
Yes, it's quite strange choice of outfit if he was trying to go unnoticed.
Ah, he must be a detective disguised up as a policeman.
Or a detective disguised as a waxwork model of a policeman.
He doesn't look like he's clever enough to think of something like that, though.
Perhaps you should try to be a little more polite about him, Iris.
Take that!
The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious twitch. Even the most realistic waxworks do not exhibit a twitch. In other words, this splendid old man is in fact a genuine member of Scotland Yard. Slight shift in your choice of adjectives then. And there you have it. Well, Madame Two Spells? Well, what? It was me who contacted the police and demanded that someone come to the first place. He is clearly fatigued. He is sound asleep. But then, what's the tag about showing in the... What's this tag about showing a price at 3 pence? No doubt the price tag of the muffler, which the old Bobby purchased recently at the local market. And I presume you've observed the scarf tied around his arm. Does that not strike you, Mr. Norohodo? Yes, the secret sign used by detectives to show that some criminal activity is currently underway. Of course, because, as you know, there has just been such criminal activity happening here, as you deduced from the very beginning, Detective. So, it would seem that we are finally arrived at the truth. The waxwork of the especially ruthless killer from the special exhibit has been kidnapped. And Scotland Yard are already investigating. But the model's whereabouts remain a mystery. Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of the horrifying puzzle. And I helped. All sorts of people visit my museum here, men and women, young and old. Sometimes they drop in just for a short time on their way back from the pub. I welcome them all. But if anyone tries to damage my exhibits, I do not take it lightly. Anyway... Your great deduction was even more enchanting than I had been led to believe. It was a pleasure, my dear madam. I'm gratified that you enjoyed the spectacle. And as for your rough customer, I've no doubt he will gain consciousness shortly and return home. What concerns me more is the waxwork from the special display, if it was indeed genuinely abducted. Yes, tragically it was. Then I would ask you to recount us the events of the surrounding the stolen waxwork, in as much detail as possible, if you please. Very well. And after I have told you what I know, I must insist that you return to your work. The talent of a great detective could be put to better use, I feel, but as you wish. Tell us more about the stolen waxwork, please. It was some days ago now, when I came in here once in the morning. I immediately noticed that a waxwork was missing from the special exhibit here.
Is it your most prominent display? So that's why the curtains were closed.
And I found the random note in its place. The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it. The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then.
So this waxwork that was stolen, it was a model of some horrible criminal, I suppose?
Of a particularly horrible criminal, in fact. The killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other, I would say. The Professor. Not a name I've ever heard of. So, Mr. Norohodo, it seems the circle is complete. Sorry?
The Professor case happened around the time I was born, didn't it?
Indeed it did, Iris. 10 years ago, a series of murders that rocked the capital. 10 years ago? Yes, and exactly the time that Barak von Zieks graduated from university, in fact. What? Surely he's not saying...
So the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life?
As you've surmised, it was the professor case. Who was this professor then? It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of London gripped in terror a decade ago. After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested, put to death. And now he's immortalized here in a wax of all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Well, of course, he happens to be absent at present on account of the abduction. But I don't understand. How is all this related to Von Zieks? You must first understand, mighty fellow. Why is it that the professor earned such infamy? It was due to the victims he chose, some of Whitehall's finest.
What do you mean, Hurley?
That, you know, the picture in his office? That's his father, and the professor killed his father. The end. Alright, I TLDR the fuck out of that, and I haven't even read this yet. Those murdered by the professor were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy. Members of the nobility, even royalty. It sent shockwaves through the country's administration. Members of the... Ah, wait, of course. What Professor Harebrain said. Lord Van Zieks is from a family with noble blood.
Oh gosh.
It was the 5th victim that had led us to the professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of... Clint Van Zieks. No. I don't believe it. Van Zieks? I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourself. In the wake of his older brother's murder, the young Barak pursued a career of prosecutor, and eventually became the Reaper we know today. And eventually he became a president of the United States. Oh wait, wrong Barak. I had no idea Lord Van Zieks was such a tragic past. Well, I'm afraid it's all I can say on the matter. For the time being, at least. After all, I have work to do. As a waxwork exhibit. I'm afraid I shall have to excuse myself as well. Oh, yes, of course. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Alright, goodbye. Can't wait to see you in court. You're definitely going to be part of a witness or something at some point. We all know it's to be true. Well, none of the predicted scenarios I've been analyzing involve you coming to visit me here.
It's been too long, it really has. I'm delighted to see you, Barak.
It's been 10 years, and here we are, meeting in the prison of all places.
I can't forgive myself for what happened to Mr. Esmond. I just can't. I still can't believe it could have happened.
Tomorrow, the court will decide.
Yes, I have a young Eastern man acting for my defense. He seems reliable enough, though. Yet, it was an accident, a terrible accident. He assures me he can prove it.
I must warn you.
Oh, I know, I heard already. You're going to be prosecuting, aren't you?
Yes. I mean, you could get yourself excused. You're like, I know the victim. Let's get a new prosecutor in here.
Since I returned to England, I heard lots of stories. Barak, are you really?
What?
Never mind. I know that you have my best interest at heart.
My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else.
Of course, I fully understand. Thank you, Barak.
Until tomorrow, then. I'll see you in court. Of October, 8:52 a.m. The Old Bailey, defendant's antechambers. I can't believe it's been 6 months since I last was allowed to work in court. And now, here I am, back at the Old Bailey. Mr. Naruhodo. Good morning, Professor Haybrain.
I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts. I never felt anything like it. It's crushing me.
I feel it every time I'm here. At gravity.
Well, this is Britain's highest court. But are you telling me it's fitted with some kind of device that you can actually control air pressure?
I think it's probably all in the mind.
Oh, yes, well, you won't let me down, will you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you in today's trial. To save my life. To save the secret of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public.
Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. I have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident.
Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about. Really, justice will prevail.
My commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered in with a most tiresome case here. Mr. Sholmes, I didn't expect to see you here.
That was very mean, Runo, leaving me alone at home with Hurley. It took me at least an hour to wake him.
Are you the Hairlock Sholmes?
Indeed, sir. I am he. Hairlock Sholmes.
Oh, I've heard so much about your exploits, even whilst living in Germany.
Yes, Rant's magazine is on sale in Germany too.
This month's installation was sublime. Your introduction in the adventure of Silver Blaze was wonderful.
Ah, yes, a memorable case indeed. I cornered a snake, I seem to recall.
No, that was the Speckled Band.
Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay. Oh? I have urgent business at Madame Tuspel's. You mean your waxwork job? No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services. Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of the ransom note, are you? The week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. Oh, well, never mind then. I understand. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be easy as a proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie of any description.
Oh, then you must absolutely give it your all full attention, Hurley.
Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know? Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for a pie. One of the universe's intractable mysteries, you might say.
Oh yes, quite. Definitely, absolutely. I totally understand.
Is someone a little starstruck? I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Hairbrain.
I thank you.
Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear, if you please. What's this about? As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, a practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibit, is quite impossible. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was.
I've read Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Runo, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It could barely be done theoretically, let alone practically.
So he's completely barking up the wrong tree. All right, so let's see. Pre everything comes out predictions. He was being funded. So Harebrain was being funded by one of London's biggest criminal organizations. And there's also the missing waxwork figure. So my guess is he knew it wasn't going to work. So he volunteered himself to be part of the teleportation. And what they probably did was they stole the waxwork figure because it was either supposed to melt or get removed, or something was supposed to happen in the teleportation incident. And then the real guy was supposed to maybe teleport over and say he was there. Or it was always meant to fake his death. And he was in the machine, it blew up, he survived and left, and what they picked up at the crime scene was the wax figure. Or he was supposed to fake his death and ended up actually being murdered and there instead. Because I assume maybe the invention succeeding, even though it didn't work, he was going to make a bunch of money off of it or something like that, maybe. That's my guess. Since he was a head of a criminal organization and he was funding this research, only Harebrain probably doesn't understand that it won't work. But everybody else kind of looks at it and go, yeah, this is complete asinine magic bullshit. That's not going to work. So that's my guess. He was either meant to fake his death and actually died, or he did in fact fake his death and we're going to find that he's alive somewhere. And we're going to actually find him as he's trying to escape or something like that. Anyway. But how can an experiment like that possibly have succeeded? But how could an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding, in fact succeed? That's contradictory. And is that a contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial? I no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now, I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, my dear fellow.
See you later, Hurley. Well, looks like you're on your own today, Runo. But chin up, you can do it.
Oh, what about you, Iris?
No, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do.
I see.
Hee, it's going to be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is.
Ah, that sounds ominous. But helpful. Is it the cat flappo flippo flapomatic number 2? Counsel for defense and the defendant. Court is about to begin the session. Make your way into the courtroom at once. We're on our way. So it's going to be a new one of her inventions, I assume, that's going to give some kind of evidence or something. Who knows? An experiment that the laws is... Oh, also we have, in the court record, we have literally this crossbow here. And that there was a screwdriver in the shape of an A that I'm assuming was actually a bolt. And it sits comfortably on this mechanism while it gets launched forward. So somebody shot that screwdriver, which is actually a bolt, into him. So he didn't die by being teleported and smashed into the crystal tower. Somebody shot and killed him, took his body and put it up there. That's my guess. Now the question is whose crossbow is this? An experiment to the laws of science, they can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who... Oh, I get it. Okay. That's the one part I mixed up. He was funding this fake science program, and they wanted to fake it working so that the British government would start funding it. And then they could siphon the funds away from this fake experiment to something else. That was probably the scam they were trying to run. They were trying to get, the British government is trying to find any science that it can fund. They were going to fake something the British scientists could, that the British government was 100% going to be like, wait, you can make a teleportation device? Of course we're going to fund you. And they were going to probably just embezzle all the money. And then once it didn't work, they would just blame Professor Hairbrain and say, hey, no, it's just his thing didn't work. He lied to you and faked it out. And then they would like, oh, but the money's gone. Oh, well. And the scientist was convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Ryunosuke. That's the key to this case. (23rd of October a.m.), the Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are sitting today for the public trial of Professor Albert Hairbrain. I now call upon the counsel for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. I'm 6 months out of practice, and what's more, I'm without Sasato-san today. Ugh. Is it just my imagination, or does the air in here feel even more oppressive than usual? So, I must say I recollect the victim of this case all too well. Mr. Rhodey Asman. Mr. Asman was well known as a financier, though that was merely a front for his diverse criminal activities. It was only a month ago that the man appeared in court prosecuted by you, Lord Van Zeeks. But the jury unanimously found him not guilty. Because every member of the jury had been bribed, with the sound of it. These powerful London criminals were prepared to go extreme lengths to keep their freedom. But 2 days ago, on 21st of October, Mr. Asman met his end. The work of the Reaper, was it? If that is how your lordship would describe divine retribution, but the fact remains that Mr. Asman's death was the direct result of the actions of the accused, Professor Hairbrain. Very well then. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected at random to represent the will of the people. Now the 6 of you are to fulfill your societal duty. Ooh, new people! Like, fully new people. Alright. I'm most gratified to have been selected to carry out this important civic duty, my lord.
To have a man's fate in the palm of one's hand? Oh gosh, oh golly, it sends shivers down my spine.
Science experiments, magic.
Wait.
Science experiments, magic, conjuring tricks, courtroom trials, all or nothing more than performances.
Any suspicious scholar that defies the reputation of science deserves to hang.
We have to listen to what the both says on both sides of the fence, then settle on one. That's it, isn't it?
Wasn't like this in my day. Wasn't like this at all. That's the police killer Automole lookalike. Again. And he's exhausted as ever, it seems. Now, as I assure you all aware, the incident we're now to judge today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition shortly after its opening. Though the death toll could have been far worse, with the exception of the victim, no one was killed. Nevertheless, the dream of science being exhibited rapidly turning into a nightmare for the spectators. A tragic turn of events, and as such, the eyes of all of London, no, the whole world will be on this trial. It is our duty to reach the swift and just conclusion, I feel. So, your opening statement, please, Lord Van Zeeks. at the heart of this incident. His technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world. One of science's latest developments, I take it. The government is keen to capitalize on the Great Exhibition to prove Britain's technological advantage. The technology being demonstrated by the accused was described as super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. Good lord! It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity and beam them instantly into another location where they are subsequently reassembled. Yeah, easily would have melted a wax figure. Is it such a thing, even with the realms of possibility? Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure. Disassembling people with electricity. My goodness, how shocking. Ha! The whole idea is absurd. The hypothesis would never stand up to scrutiny. Sir, I believe you're a fellow of the Royal Society, are you not? An expert in your field. I am. My word on the matter can be considered final. Instantaneous kinesis is poppycock. So, this expert and Mr. Sholmes are in agreement. It's impossible. What is the prosecution's view on the matter? The prosecution would assert that the accused instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success. What? What's rot? Order! Order! The professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. It is deemed to have merit. A substantial research grant would be made available. The accused made use of the invention built on his new hypothesis to take Mr. Asman's life, in order to be the sole benefactor of the grant. But... This disastrous demonstration was no accident. It was carefully designed from the outset to end the life of the victim. Alright, so does... Okay. Here's my question. He has a connection to the defendant. He is now making up... So, my question is Van Zieks trying to find the best motive why he could have done it and just presenting it in court? Or is Van Zieks just saying this knowing that's not what the truth is, knowing we're going to prove it wrong? Because to me, this comes off as Van Zieks is just trying to figure out, like, what would be Harebrain's, like, most evil, actual diabolical plot. But since he knows Harebrain, and he knows Harebrain is, like, probably not gonna, like, they probably wouldn't get the grant anyway. Because even if it works and it kills people, I mean, maybe he'd get the grant just to pay the money to keep trying to make it where it doesn't kill people, but I don't know. I don't think is he actually trying to get his old friend as best as he can as a prosecutor? And he's like, yeah, I know you probably didn't do it, but I'm still going to try to pin it on you anyway, because that's what he does. Or does he know we're going to get him off? Or is he just, does he know he's lying and just making shit up, knowing that if he tries to give his motive to be the most vile thing he could have done, he knows that's not what it would be, so we would easily be able to disprove it, maybe. Because if Van Zieks said he knew his experiment wasn't going to work, but he did it anyway, knowing it would kill the subject, not because he was trying to get him away from getting the grant money, but because he just wanted to prove it worked, and it didn't matter who was the test subject. He just wanted to prove the possibility it could work. Like, it's not like he's trying to fake it. Anyway, I'm overthinking this part. This part doesn't matter. Now, your Lord Van Zieks, the prosecution's sense is clear. Well, you will now bring forth witness to substantiate your claims.
Gladly, my lord.
Bailiff, show the first witness to stand. Because one way I could see this, like, if Hairbrain really was doing this maliciously, the way I would accept this would be Hairbrain wanted to show off a practical demonstration of his device at the fair. He knew it wouldn't work and needed a volunteer. But instead of getting the volunteer he was supposed to get, he got somebody important to be a volunteer when he actually wanted to have, like, everyone was telling him he should have used a dummy, and he could have teleported the dummy to prove it existed, or done it to a pig or something. But he insisted it was a person, or it wasn't supposed to be a person. It wasn't supposed to be a person. He just happened to be in there, and he's like, "No, fuck it. I believed in your thing so much." And the professor said, "Fuck it. Even if it kills him, I'm still gonna prove it's kind of works." Just to get like that, I could see like he was faking it. Like the professor knew he was faking his invention for the grant money, but the professor has no fucking idea that the thing doesn't work. Barrier, show the first witness to stand. Witnesses, state your names and occupations of the court. Yes, sir. The boy is Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. I was on duty at the demonstration the day in question in charge of the formal investigation. Albert Hairbrain, scientist. You were born in England, but have been carrying out research in Germany in recent years, correct? Yes, that's right. Well, after graduating from university here in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery. Which is what brought me back. I had to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis to the Great Exhibition. What you demonstrated was incredible, alright? An incredible explosion. But the science was a success. The instantaneous kinesis worked. Everyone saw it. They must have done. Yes, there was a terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was a success. Well, that much is undeniable, as shown in this photograph taken by the forensic investigation team. This was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it. The centerpiece of the exhibition, no less. Okay, so yeah, that's where the screwdriver crossbow bolt pierced his chest. Okay. Like straight shot in the heart, huh? That's right, my lord. Seems the victim rammed straight into it. I see. Very well. Submit the photographic evidence. The photograph of the victim has been entered in the court record. Yeah, just big bolt to the there's no other trauma to the body, right? It's just that bolt in the chest. In fact, if you said that this was a wax dummy and it just had like a blood pack or a fake heart, and that was the point of shooting it with the crossbow bolt, was to make it bleed and say, "Oh, look, of course he's dead." The question is, wouldn't some of the police have to be in on it to know, like, after touching it, to be like, "Wait, this is a fake body"? So, unless the police are in on it, which maybe they are, maybe he paid the police off too, that were investigating in the corner and everything, that this could just be a wax dummy, but we don't know. As the court heard, the victim of the incident was Mr. Odie Osmond. There have been a number of allegations made against the man, but putting them aside for the time being, it was the man who has financed the research for the experiment and the demonstration itself. I see. So to summarize the situation, the defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. Would that be correct? Exactly. But couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction in the apparatus used for the demonstration? That's right, it must be. By splendid machine, by poor splendid machine. You saw it yesterday, didn't you? We can't even examine the wreckage thanks to the special dispensation for scientific Oh my god, just invent acronyms already. Oh, what? The wreckage? The wreckage? But that, I'm sorry, acronyms aren't allowed in court. We haven't, that hasn't been scientifically proven to be accepted in court yet. But that being the case, how can the facts be established? How can it possibly be determined whether this was an accident or deliberate or malicious act?
Extremely simply, my lord.
I beg your pardon.
Isn't that right, witnesses?
What? Sorry? Me?
No, your neighbor.
Yes, sir. It was a murder, plain and simple. Anyone could state that with complete certainty. What?
How can you possibly think that?
Thank you, Inspector. I think we had better proceed to formal testimony. You will explain to the court what on grounds you claim this experiment to have been a front for murder. A corpse that went crashing through the crystal tower had a broken neck. I made a minor miscalculation of the angle of the beam projection. That's all. That was my mistake. But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. There was a lesion in the chest where it had clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere, and this fella's the only one who could have done it. An extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart.
Information I would really like to have heard from someone other than the judge.
The coroner says it would have been all but instant from the wound like that.
You could say, in fact, that the victim was killed twice by the accused.
No, that could be further from the truth. However, an experiment plan documented that was submitted to the security team. The victim stood himself inside something called the bird cage, ready to be beamed instantly to the second level of the crystal tower, about 25 yards away.
The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put to operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam transmitter to point higher than intended. Accordingly, the kinesis resulted in the bird cage materializing in midair. From there, it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the crystal tower large round window.
My word! One assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower then. Well, I'm so sorry. Let it be for this to happen. The machine was just too powerful. But honestly, really, I swear, it was an accident. A terrible accident.
Unfortunately, that excuse cannot save you.
Nope. Not considering the sharp murder weapon that pierced the victim's heart. Murder weapon? What are you saying?
This is the autopsy report submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like it to be entered into the court record.
Alright, so once again, before the case even begins, my guess is the victim funded the experiment because he wanted it to succeed, so that instead of him funding the experiment, the British government would give grant money to them. He would then embezzle the grant money. And the machine doesn't actually work. He was going to fake the experiment while making the scientists think it worked. And while he's embezzling half of the money, he is then, when it turns out that the machine doesn't work, he's going to blame the scientist. And his plan was, he puts a wax dummy in the machine. When it gets electrocuted, it melts everything. And then he would have appeared on the crystal tower perfectly fine. However, somebody shot him in the heart but while the transition with him faking getting into the bird cage, and he died. So somebody carried him up to the crystal tower and then threw his corpse out the window to look as if he had fallen from there after the transporter had failed, which he was supposed to just be standing there being like, look at me, I'm fine. But he was already dead when that happened, so they just kind of pushed him out and he hit the floor. That's where they found his body. That would be my guess. My other guess would have been that he was ready to fake his own death when he got shot in the heart with the arrow, when he was where he was supposed to show up after the transporter accident. But we found the crossbow bolt in the bird cage, so he couldn't have been killed on the crystal tower. He had to have been killed while he was in the bird cage after he physically walked in. And there was supposed to be some kind of commotion, possibly that explosion in which the real him swapped out. Or I don't know when they would have swapped him with the wax figure, though. But the wax figure definitely gets in this somehow. Or maybe the wax figure was supposed to be on the tower, and they would just see the wax figure standing there after he escaped the cage and did a quick magic. That's there's also a magician literally in the jury. So the magician's gonna go over sleight of hand and yeah, definitely, yeah. All right, I'm very convinced in my hypothesis so far. I just don't know if he was killed in the bird cage or if he was killed after the bird cage. I think he was killed in the bird cage and then somebody dumped his body up there and he just fell and broke his neck after he was already dead. That's my guess. Anyway, your request is granted, counsel. The autopsy report has been entered into the court record.
Marzan person, I saw the whole ludicrous performance. And the only other person on the stage with Mr. Asman was a disgraceful excuse for a scientist. Then really, by all accounts, it must have been him. Hard to think otherwise, really.
Very well, counsel, for the defense. Proceed with the cross-examination, please. Details of victim. Name Odie Asman. Age 47. Nationality British. Time of death 2:20 p.m. Coroner Courtney Scythe. Cause of death. Hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart inflicted by a sharp implement. Additional observe. Okay, so he did in fact die from the shooting. Okay. Additional observations. A broken vertebra, most likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from considerable height. Oh, yes, my lord. I need to focus here. It's been a while. A front for murder. A corpse that was seen crashing through the crystal tower had a broken neck. Hold it! Are you suggesting that because he fell from a considerable height? Exactly. Which highlights something else about the whole business. What's that? The fact that the instantaneous kinesis itself was a success. Ah. After the explosion, the cage with the fella and sword suddenly appeared out of nowhere in midair. Wait, the whole cage appeared in midair? But we saw the cage on the machine, didn't we? Oh, are they going to say he was in a hot air balloon and they dropped it from a air balloon? Okay. So although the experiment and disaster, the so-called instantaneous kinesis did actually occur. Remind us, Professor, what was the cause of the fatal disaster? Well, I made the minor miscalculation of the angle of the beam projection. That's all. It was my mistake. So the angle of projection is critical, is it? And you calculated it yourself, personally? Well, absolutely. The calculation is far too complicated for anyone but me to carry out. Only you got it wrong, didn't you? Yes, that's right. That's the point. The calculation is so complicated even I can make a mistake. Do people fall for that brazen confidence? I should try it. Well, look into the account of the subject's height and weight, and wind direction, the ambient temperature. I considered every possible variable, so I just don't understand how it could have happened. Obviously, then, you had to include the weight of the clothes Mr. Asman was wearing at the time, I suppose. Oh. Correctly, Clements. The answer should have been 3. So much for safety first. The 3 must be for safety third. But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound.
Hold it!
Another fatal injury, you say? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't think I'd have to spell it out, but here we go. Just because there were 2 fatal wounds doesn't mean I'm saying the victim had 2 lives to lose, does it? Too right. Obviously, at first, we thought the bloke had died due to his spine snapping in half as well. But you're saying that's not the case? You'll get your answer once I finish my fish and chips, if you don't keep butting in every few seconds. But we all know that's a bottomless bag. The victim plummeted 30 feet into a glass tower. It would be reasonable to assume that the cause of death. Right, that's what we all thought, but it was a red herring, wasn't it? There was a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp, right in the eye.
Hold it!
The defense knew nothing of this crucial information. The prosecution received its report from the forensic investigation team only this morning. That was the first we knew of it as well. I can only apologize for the impossibility of informing the defense. Sarcastic and insincere. Thanks. So, what is the nature of this sharp object? Among the accused tools that were used at the demonstration, one is of particular interest. This. Oh yes, that would appear to be some kind of screwdriver, wouldn't it? There he is. My trusty little companion, Andrew. Andrew, of course. Oh, you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools. I named them all, you know. We're one big happy family. I don't care if he's guilty or not, get rid of this guy. Well, Andrew's my flathead screwdriver, of course. His brother Michael is a crosshead. There's already a name for that one, but whatever. You could have called him P for Phillips. Like, come on. What are we doing here? What are we even doing here? Well, it would appear that your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank. That isn't... It's blood, beyond all reasonable doubt. No. And that's not all. The long, sharp shape of this Andrew fellow is completely consistent with the victim's wound. What? Ah, so it's Andrew who did the murder. Order! Order! The court will now enter this friend of the defendant as an evidence. Screwdriver is entered in the court record. So one of the Professor Hairbrain's tools is the murderer weapon? Is the murder weapon? I can't find anything out of place. Wait, really? I thought that was glowing the color. I've seen this unusual shaped handle before. It's the same screwdriver that was lodged in the grill on the floor of the kinesis machine. Which could be important information, so I should definitely make a note of it. Yeah, for where it was actually found. This is blood. Mr. Asman's, no doubt. This is the problem with looking at murder weapons. What, did it cover with blood? Still not allowed to... Alright. Great. So the victim was killed before we went anywhere, and this fella's the only one who could have done it.
Hold it!
What grounds do you have for saying that? Ah, they really need to ask. There's only 2 people there on the public experimentation stage, in front of the whole crowd. The victim, Mr. Rhodey Asman, and the accused, Professor Harebrained. And we know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive. That's right, I saw in my own eyes. Furthermore, following the explosion in Kinesis, nobody went anywhere near the body. In other words, only someone else on stage with the victim could possibly have done it.
Excuse me.
Professor Harebrained, you have some information that may be relevant here. Professor? Oh, I'm sorry. I was just calculating the optimum coefficient of electrolysis to separate molecules from the human body. And the witness stand is the best place for that? It seems as though you might have something to say about Inspector Gregson's last remark. Yes, that's right, of course. He just said that nobody else could have done it, didn't he? Yep, that's right. Who else could have stabbed the victim, eh? Well, I don't know, but there's no way that I would possibly have stabbed Mr. Esmond, as you say. Eh? Explain, please, Professor. Well, of course, this cold-hearted policeman may not be aware, I suppose. But humans are warm-blooded mammals, with blood running consistently through their veins. I had heard. But surely, you see, if I plunged something the size of Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a bloodbath. No, a blood swimming pool. It would have been like my... It would have been like my Japanese animes, Mr. Harebrained. Ah. But thousands of Londoners were watching me at the time. And yet no one of them claims to have seen a swimming pool of blood. Well, no, I suppose. You'll see no one. True, I didn't see anything like that. Well done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument. Order! Order! Pray forgive the discourtesy if I save a drop from my hollow chalice to accompany my old friends adducting. Or educating. No, that's not the word. Adducting? What? Whatever. Here's to you, Albert. Oh, you're too kind, Barack, but I'm really not a patch on you. No, you're not. Though? You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility. Well, you have? A particular situation in which very little bleeding would result from a stab wound. Oh, of course. Inspector, enlighten the court, please. Yes, sir. Where are they going with this? He was already dead beforehand. Very well. You will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson. The weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in his body whilst he was beamed through the air.
Hold it!
Why would you think that, Inspector? With any wound, it's only when you put out the weapon that profuse bleeding occurs. Whilst it's still lodged in the body, it acts as a stopper of sorts, for want of a better word. I see. You don't need a medical degree to be aware of this fact. It's common knowledge for any investigator. Where's the subtle someone you need her? Oh, you ask me, this boat masked what he was doing from view with his body before stabbing Asmund in the chest. Then he beamed the victim off the stage with his fancy device. Screwdriver still where he planted it. Well, I would never do such a thing. Not my precious tools. I would never use them for such dirty work. You only ever use tools for their intended purpose. That's common knowledge for any scientist. One other thing is, even though the flathead screwdriver is a bit pointy, it's not an actual point. Like, it's kind of dull at the tip, and it's also quite wide. So it's not like it's an ice pick or anything. It's gonna take a lot of force to get a screwdriver, like, actually bury that thing in somebody. Like, there's gonna be a lot of resistance on just you hitting shit. That fact remains, the lack of blood at the scene can easily be explained, as the prosecution has demonstrated. So, that's all the testimony I have to work with? I had no idea the victim had been stabbed. That changes everything. Did Van Zieks keep that to himself until now on purpose, to gain an advantage? Oh well, I suppose I could do this, press the witnesses for as much information as possible. Alright, so the question is, what evidence do we put forward? The corpse that went back, that went crashing into the crystal tower, had a broken neck. I made a minor miscalculation, angled the beam projection, that's all. It was my mistake. But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, fatal wound. There's a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. The weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in his body whilst he was beamed through the air. I mean, if you want to post a sprite animation in chat, you can go ahead. Some of the chatters can check that out. But if this is just to sell art, then no thank you. Piece of green cloth, mysterious contraption. No, we haven't even been able to look at this. We're not able to do it yet. I mean, the angle would have put him up on that. Judging from the angle here, he would have been up on a different level if the teleporter had worked. I don't think it's the victim. How much of a wound in the chest that pierced the heart, inflicted by sharp implement? Oh, did I miss a press? Or was I supposed to press this and not? Let's see.
Hold it!
The defense knew nothing of this. Let's see. Nah, that's the old classic one. Gotcha. So what you're saying is, I'll do this then. We'll press Gregson. And then while we're flashing up, we'll swap over to the hairbrain.
Excuse me.
Professor Hairbrain, are you hiding something from the court? It's Fuller. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. What was that? I was calculating the nutritionalization coefficient of electrical charge required to electrolysis of a human subject. Well, I have to keep the result a secret at all costs, you see. That's why I ate the paper I did my working on. But now I've completely forgotten the number. Dear me, I'm a scatterbrain sometimes. Well, moments before you ate the paper, you did yell out the number 4. No, you know it? You know my secret coefficient. Oh dear, oh no, this is bad. Oh my goodness. Perhaps you could just focus on the testimony? Alright, that actually was a eating the paper. So that's all the testimony I have to work with. I had no idea the victim had been stabbed. That changed everything. Okay, we've done this already. So, I guess what the real question is what evidence? Like, what evidence are we supposed to be showing up here to fuck with them with? The person crashed into the crystal tower had a broken neck. Made a minor miscalculation with the angle of the beam projection. That's all. That was my mistake. But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. There was a lesion in his chest where it had been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. The weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in the body whilst he was beamed through the air. Now, is this where they want me to, like, present the image where it's not in his chest? Because this would easily be fixed with the teleportation device only teleported him and not this. But my guess is we're trying to say, if it did teleport while it was stabbed in him, why is it not still in his corpse?
Objection!
Nope, not it. Fuck. Oh. Surely something about that last statement seems odd, doesn't it? Would you care to mull over precisely what you find out about it on your return journey to Japan? I wouldn't be back to give the court an answer for about 4 months, though. Rest assured, we should be happy to carry proceedings forward in your absence, counsel. He sounds serious. I have to prove my worth before he really does send me back home. What could it want then? Let's see if I press this to the full, right? Did I press this full last time? No. Had a broken neck. Broken vertebra was likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from considerable height. Hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced. Are we supposed to... I hope we're not supposed to match hemorrhage, that he would actually have lost the blood of a wound to the chest. But he should have been killed by the fact that the screwdriver would have pierced his heart. Like, that's just gonna fucking kill you and still make you hemorrhage blood even with it in there. Unless they're trying to say he did in fact die from a hemorrhage. So the blood would have come out. So it couldn't have been left in. Is that what they're trying to get me to pull? Alright, I'm going to assume that's what it's supposed to be, right? I'm supposed to say, no, it couldn't have been left in. It says he died from the bleeding.
Objection!
Nope, that's not it either. Fuck. The defense would have to object to that last statement, my lord. And I would have to overrule your objection, counsel. Alright, what are they trying to get me to get on this, then? I'm not sure what I have to work with. Getting 2 penalties already kind of fucking sucks. That means I'm going to have to save later. But I'm not sure... Am I just supposed to show the screwdriver? Huh. Oops. Fuck. I hate doing that. Because after pursuing Like, after pursuing, and we nailed Hairbrain on this one, we got this piece of testimony. So that would make me think that this is the one we're supposed to be presenting evidence on, but what other evidence would we be doing? Like, I don't think any of this would be in the game right now. Like, I don't think we're supposed, because we haven't even shown that this is a crossbow yet. Like, we haven't even been able to look at this fucking thing yet. So this is just, like, these two are just non-existent. Are we supposed... Oh, or is it saying that this was poking in the grill so it didn't go with him? It was out of his chest?
Objection.
Ah, god damn it, that was it. Fuck me. I'm dumb. You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there's very little bleeding. But that's unequivocal. Look, there was no blood on the experimentation stage, even though that's where the fellow was stabbed. The only explanation for that is that the screwdriver was still in his body, stopping any heavy bleeding. It's common medical knowledge, my learned friend, even on your side of the world. Yes, but about this screwdriver. The thing is, we actually saw it at the scene ourselves, on the experimentation stage. What? It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through the metal grill. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Oh, well, now you come to mention it, yes. Inspector, are we to understand that you permitted the defense counsel to investigate? That you contravened? That sounds... It sounds... I know it's right, but it sounds so fucking wrong. But I know it's right. You contravene the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I just let him look, nothing more. It was very clear he wasn't to touch a thing. Yes, that's true. This screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been showed, should it? What are you getting at? If this tool had been in the victim's body when the victim was beamed away by the machine, then it shouldn't have been on the stage. Oh. That's right. It should have been beamed across to the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Asman. It has been found still lodged in the victim's chest. Order! Order! How do you explain this, Inspector? Well, that wrong voice, never mind. How do you explain this, Inspector? Well, I don't... It looks as though everything the victim had on this person moved with him when he is beamed. If the screwdriver was still in his chest while the instantaneous kinesis occurred, obviously that would have been beamed to the destination as well. I tried to say that, but with a different piece of evidence. Come on, game, you gotta keep up with me. I'm too big brain for you. This is a strange situation. Even though people are saying this is instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it did actually take place. Alright, time to tighten the screws here. My lord, if the prosecution is unable to explain the inconsistency in its argument, we can only conclude that the testimony given in support cannot be relied upon. Lord Van Zeeks is stuck. Oh great, he's gonna fuck us over. Do you have something to say, witness?
Yes, I knew it. It bears out. The equations hold. Listen to Hodo, don't worry.
About what?
Without delving into the details, there's no inconsistency.
What?
Even if Andrew had been lodged in Mr. Asman's chest,
My trustworthy tool wouldn't have moved. The Andrew remaining on the stage is consistent with my calculations. What? No, bro, come on. You're throwing yourself underneath the bus here. Just kills another person in the bystanders. It would seem your illusions have been shattered. Clearly, we should have heard the accused's explanation. Or should I say, this brilliant scientist... Oh, it's Bardock! Bardock Van Zee! The brilliant scientist's explanation. Oh. Just when I found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument. Scientists. Oh well, the defendant will testify again. Provide us with a scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defense fails to hold. In the name of Apollo, I will, my lord. The inconsistency explained. To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data by research. My hypothesis states the kinesis cannot transport metal, though. Hence, the metal weapon would have stayed put. In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't inconsistency at all. Mr. Asman was the patron of my research. Without him, my work couldn't have been possible. Now I have my duty to protect the incredible machine that we built together. So, the thrust of your testimony, Professor, is that based upon the hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved by this method of instantaneous kinesis. In other words, since the screwdriver is made of metal, even if remained lodged in the victim's chest, its subsequent discovery on the stage, despite the victim being found elsewhere, is not an inconsistency. And therefore, Professor Albert Harebrain could still have been the killer. My great hypothesis holds, you see. We had to make the cage used to contain the subject from wood for that very reason. I was not addressing your witness. Professor Harebrain. Yes? Whose side are you on here? So are we going to show that he had metal on him? His glasses, right? His glasses were still on his body, so clearly it did teleport metal. Unless it's literally just glass and like wood holding it on. But there's a chain holding something on there too, so. Also his button probably was metal. Well, I don't take sides, Mr. Naruhodo. No. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. I'm a scientist after all. Is he working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell. Let us see how you cross-examine the testimony, my Nimponi's friend. Yes, fire away, Mr. Naruhodo. This consistency explained. To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data by research.
Hold it!
And yet, your retort to my argument wasn't lacking in confidence in any way. No scientist can find the truth without first finding self-belief. Those were the words of a certain scientist that I hold in the very highest esteem. But you realize that disproving my argument puts you in a very precarious position, don't you? No scientist should strive to protect himself for more than he strives to protect the truth. More words of the same great scientist, you know. Words that are causing me a lot of trouble. Who is the scientist? Well, I'm afraid I couldn't tell you, Mr. Naruhodo. But as soon as I remember the magnificent genius's name, you'll be the first to know. It might be worth keeping the names of your idols to mind. You're wasting your breath, my learned friend. This scatterbrain even forgets my name at times. So, Lord Van Zeeks really did have a friend once. But I didn't notice hell freezing over. My hypothesis states the kinesis cannot transport metal, though. That's why the metal weapon would have stayed put.
Hold it!
Your hypothesis states it, so this isn't proven then.
No, of course not. It's merely a hypothesis. But a good one, based on thousands of calculations. But it is wildly known that metals can be decomposed by electrolysis. Yes, of course. So I am right. My hypothesis is clearly correct.
What is it about incriminating yourself that makes this man so happy?
That's the whole reason why the birdcage is made of wood, you see.
Sorry, the birdcage?
Yes, that's what we call this obtusa cage in which Mr. Esmond was placed for kinesis.
Oh, the jail cell in which the victim was detained. It does indeed seem to be made of timber of some sort.
I'll thank you not to refer to it as an instrument of incarceration, your lordship.
In short, any weapon lodged in the victim when he was beamed away by instantaneous kinesis would have been left behind the stage if it was made of metal, correct? Yes, that's it. Yes. It all fits perfectly with the mathematical model.
Alright, so here's the question then. If we go back to this picture, the cage, the bird cage that he's in, seems to be very well intact. Not broken up and shattered to pieces. If he fell from such a height, that would have also broken his spine and neck, the bird cage would have shattered when it hit the ground, especially from the kind of a distance that it was supposed to have fallen. Remember, it was supposed to have fallen from like here and hit the ground. So my guess is he didn't break his neck when this fell. He broke his neck when he was either dropped from the cage or ejected from the cage and it was way out. Because I'm assuming he was supposed to be alive, but since he was killed, his body just kind of fell and broke. And then they put him in the cage and dropped him. Or that's the wax dummy there. Whichever one's supposed to be. Because remember, the cops had to build an entire wooden scaffolding to get to his body. So that easily could have been the wax dummy there that they put his actual corpse into after. But once again, this is me just trying to get the information to fit my hypothesis. I could still be very much wrong and just forcing things to fit. So, happens all the time.
But the ultimate conclusion, then, is that the defendant alone had the opportunity to inflict this fatal injury on the victim, is it not?
Ugh.
Oh, indeed, sir.
Someone beam me out of this nightmare.
In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruto isn't inconsistency at all.
Hold it!
You seem to be pleased by that.
Yes, another example of my hypothesis holding true. But I said some sarcasm, Mr. Naruto. Well, you're not pleased.
No.
Well, I knew it. Well, at the end of the day, I'm the one responsible for Mr. Esmond losing his life. The advancement of science is no excuse. I know that.
No, you're quite right.
Tell the court, did you have a close relationship with Mr. Esmond?
Oh, well, no, not really. I mean, I only met him 1 or 2 times, or 3 times. And we only ever discussed my hypothesis in the project, the research grant, of course. Mr. Esmond was the patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible.
Hold it!
How did you come to know Mr. Asman in the first place?
A year ago now, a small provincial science journal published a little paper about my work.
That's a scientific journal. Good gracious. I should read it in spectacles.
I might have had an extraordinary hypothesis and great promise, but at the time I had no money. I had to eat my tiny little meals in a tiny little cafe and drink a tiny little watered down out of my tiny little glass. But Mr. Esmond read the paper and came to visit me at my tiny little laboratory.
And offered you money to help you fund your work.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. Well, I handled the theatrical side of things, a theoretical side of things, that Mr. Esmond provided me with an engineer for the practical. Then the three of us produced that for test. Alright, so we need to find who the engineer is who did the practical work on it. Because they're the one who set up the magic trick. Well, the three of us produced that fantastic machine together. The machine that you brought to the great exhibition to demonstrate. We had to apply to the government for some sort of inspection to be allowed to exhibit, I think. I didn't understand it all side of things. Mr. Asmund took care of all of it. He was a wonderful man, really. I owe him everything. Now I have the duty to protect the incredible machine that we built together. When you say that you built the machine together, does that mean you were involved in its construction? Yes. Well, not exactly. Well, I'm not good with practical side of machines myself, so the physical construction was done by an engineer. Little remains of your creation now, though. Following the explosion, the repair will no doubt be impossible. Yes, I realize that. But still, if someone were to gather all the broken parts, they could discover the secret of my hypothesis. But Mr. Asmund and I toiled over that machine for so long, we put our hearts and souls into it. Well, I had to protect our work. So what's left of the machine must be kept safe. Well, that's only fair, because what happened was an accident. That's the extent of the testimony, then. Thank goodness for that. I don't want him doing any more damage. He's already basically proven that he could have been the culprit. But it seems as though he really cares about us defending his hypothesis. Still, I wonder, what if his hypothesis is just fundamentally flawed? So I think this is the one I was supposed to present this picture and show that there's clearly metal on it.
Objection!
Professor Harebrain, you say that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal can be beamed by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Spot on. Exactly correct. In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I'd like you to pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Asmund is wearing a pair of spectacles with a metal rim. What? Metal? No! Metal can't! No, that's metal! No! We've clearly established that the proposed murder weapon, the screwdriver, was found on the stage. However, if your hypothesis is correctly predicted that outcome, it should have been predicted that the metal rimmed spectacles would be found in the same place. Whoa! My hypothesis! My hypothesis! Professor Harebrain, this isn't easy for me to say, but your hypothesis is clearly flawed. Whoa! Order! 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 Counsel, what is the implication of this? If, on the day in question, the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, then it's entirely possible that the victim was killed somewhere other than on the stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant could have been the culprit. But my hypothesis is sound! I proved it that day. The experiment was a success. The experiment was proof of all my work. I'm going to tell you something here. My capacity as a fellow of the Royal Society. Yes, juror number 4. Go ahead. As a man of science, there's one thing I simply cannot avoid. And that's a fool who pretends to be a fellow man of science. What? Wait, great Scott! Are you suggesting my science is suspect? It's just been disproved, hasn't it? In front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was a complete nonsense from start to finish.
Now let me finish brewing myself my delicious Capri Sun. Believe me, my fellow jurors, when I tell you that this man is a heel, a bounder, and a fraud. And I say the record of that machine should be stripped down and thoroughly examined.
No, never! That machine is the instance of my entire hypothesis. It's protected by the Special Dispossession for Scientific Equipment Act.
What the devil is that blessed act all about, eh? Who made up such a daft rule? I don't like the way this seems to be going. What's the best way for me to help the professor? Raise an objection.
Objection!
The answer is always to say something. Professor Harebrain has yet to perfect his invention. That would seem to be the case, yes? But even so what? Going to such trouble to expense to create a fake machine to display in public. He would have absolutely no reason to do such a thing. He has an obvious reason to do exactly that. For the research grant money. And the government was foolish enough to have deemed the man's ridiculous notion plausible. He and his conspirators would have received a handsome sum indeed.
Conspirators?
What would the value of such a grant? £10?
And what amount it to now, madam? £500 a year.
Oh, or you could live handsomely for that much for years.
As authorities notice an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently, and plenty of scientists arguing with each other to get the largest slice of the funding cake. People's greed is plenty motive enough for murder, I assure you.
No! I haven't deceived anyone, least of all the government. My hypothesis is sound. The science is sound. Please, you must believe me.
Objection!
No matter how unbelievable the hypothesis may seem to you, ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that the victim was transported instantly to the Crystal Tower. Which means that the experiment was a success.
Oh, Barack.
And therefore, the only person who could possibly have committed this murder is the accused.
Oh, Barack.
Where is this heading? I have no idea. My lord, if I may.
Yes, Lord Van Zieks.
The prosecution would like to summon the witnesses to the stand.
New witnesses? That would be the nature of their involvement.
They were spectators at the demonstration at the exhibition, who were occupying special seats. Eyewitnesses?
Very well, the court grants the prosecution's request. I'd actually very much like to hear from the eyewitnesses of the incident.
Please tell me it's Gina and somebody else. The prosecution's stance is clear. The experiment was no postiche. The accused killed the financier victim on the public stage before the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend.
Oh, yes?
It's time for you to make your own stance clear. There's clearly a flaw in the professor's hypothesis. I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me?
We shall take a short recess now, during which time the prosecution will prepare its new witnesses to take the stand.
As you wish, my lord.
Good. In that case, the court is adjourned for 20 minutes.
I'm gonna pee and I'll be right back, and then we'll continue a bit more. I don't think I'll be going until the next pause break, because the next actual pause break will be like 2 hours from now. So I'll probably go another hour around my normal 3-hour stream time, and then I'll find like a good spot to save in the middle of that. like probably in between different arguments or whatever. So I'll be right back and we'll continue. '23rd October, 10:44 a.m. The Old Bailey. Mr. Naruto, what on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing at all along? My hypothesis, my amazing hypothesis. You've been picking holes in it from the start. Ah, sorry about that. Well, you promised me. You said you'd prove the dreaded explosion was an accident, not murder. You said you'd keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands. But all you've done so far is try to undermine me. Yes, I did make you a promise. You're right. I said that I'd believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you that I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there? Well, but if I just run through some equations... Yes, you see, that's because my work is incomplete. Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he? Oh, no. You're right. You're so right. This is all my fault. Also, you can't be running around and saying your hypothesis is incomplete, yet you tested it on a live, living person. Like, come on, dude. Come on. You can't tell me that it was incomplete and that you needed to keep your great invention safe, because if it's incomplete, it's not done yet. And you shouldn't have done this in the first place. So, at this point, you might really be eligible for murder and not an accident because you put someone in danger they shouldn't have been in the first place. You knew you weren't finished with it, and you still went ahead with it. If this is when you say he was the one who insisted to go ahead with it, that it was ready, then we could shed some light on this. But I have the right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster, not just a scientist, but as a human being. Well, that might be a little over the top. Then while we're on the subject, what about Barack? He's being awful. Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean? He's a disaster, not just a prosecutor, but as a human being. Wait, he's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapiens anymore. Yeah, he's a Dracula, obviously. Glad to see that's cleared up. Dracula does not suck. Dracula scrape and licks. Scrape and licks. Can I double check something with you? Yes? What? The demonstration you prepared. Were they based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume? There was no trickery involved? I drew the plans for the machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief that science is the only future. So yes, it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet. But please, Mr. Naruto, you must believe in it.
All right, Professor. I understand. How so, defendant? Our prosecution witness is ready to take the stand. Court is about to be in session again. Make your way into the courtroom, please. It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is sound as he claims, it leaves him the only person who could possibly have killed the victim. But on the other hand, Mr. Sholmes was adamant. Impractical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove here? In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsel for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify?
The prosecution is ready, my lord.
As is the defense, my lord. So, Lord Van Zieks, I believe these next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes.
Indeed, they did. And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective.
Ah, yeah, it's Gina Lestrade, okay.
So the testimony we are about to hear can be considered highly reliable.
Perfect, a detective of all people.
The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound.
So, Van Zieks must know it's bullshit, right?
So this goes back to my question. Does he know the machine is bullshit? And he's trying to get us to get him to admit it? Or is he trying to... Is Van Zieks trying to insist the machine worked because he believes that it does work? And he doesn't actually like know that, no, it's just fake bullshit mumbo jumbo? It's just quackery? And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed the act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused.
Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's position is clear. So, bring forth the witnesses now.
Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question clarify the truth unequivocally.
Oh, now there's Gina. Okay. I'm about to say, Gina got shorter.
Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court to hear.
What am I supposed to do for this whimsical motherfucker?
My name is Balthazar Loon. I am the impresario of all hot air balloons in vicinity to the experimental stage.
My name is Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmund.
I can't do a German accent. I can't fucking do a German accent. I can't.
My name is Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmund Orenstein. I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. Und Cola und Fortnite. Yippee! I am very rich.
Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective. Even Sherlock Holmes agrees. I was on security duty at the exhibition, and I got to go up in one of them balloons. It was amazing.
Gina.
Again.
But she did mention that she'd seen the disaster from up in the balloon, actually, didn't she? And she clearly loved every minute of it.
There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these victims were the only such balloon at the time and saw events unfold in the skies above.
You make it sound like they were in the clouds. It was only an altitude circa 60 feet, very low. Well, you can't see nothing if you fly too high, can you?
60 feet. About 18 meters, then? Thank you for your introductions. Now, will you give me your formal testimony for the court? Calmly describe exactly what you have witnessed, especially when you have had a vantage point above the stage. The view from 60 feet up.
It was inaccurate. It was incidentally terrible. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged.
I'm gonna have to change one of the jurors' voices.
There's a huge bang on the stage, and then the next second another bang in the sky beside us.
And from the smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere.
The cage, it fell from the sky like a stone, and it crashed into the crystal tower. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower.
A most extraordinary collective account, I must say. Could I just clarify something? There's the detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. Specifically, that there were 2 explosions.
More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was found here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time.
Yeah, there's this one over here on the right. The one over there on the right, the balloon popped and dropped the fake one. Okay. So, and that's what we found on the ground, the remnants of the balloon. All right, yeah. So one of the balloons popped where the fake body or his real body was hidden in the entire time. Someone stabbed him in the chest. And then they shot that into the wax dummy that was probably melted down. Yeah, okay.
There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time, carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as power was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called bird cage that contained the victim disappeared on the stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. The bird cage appeared at the side of the explosion, subsequently and plummeted down to the crystal tower.
I was very surprised. Suddenly a cage appeared behind my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot, but I didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide. I still have lots of money.
Precisely. Who is this curious infant?
I am told he is a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently, he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the Great Exhibition.
Yeah, I am here in London as a sightseeing trip with my elementary school.
We will have the benefit of a child's point of view on the testimony.
Do we really need that?
When I remove my mask, this is what I look like.
Oh yes, I see. A delightful face, I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody says so.
Great disguise, then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the fact of the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the crucial tower where the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused, who was within Mr. Asman of the stage, could possibly have committed the murder.
Yes, thank you, counsel. The prosecution's views on the matter are quite clear. Oh, the defense's cross-examination now, please.
Yes, my lord.
The view from 60 feet up.
It was an incident terrible. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged.
Hold it!
There were 3 balloons flying above the experimentation stage at the time, I understand.
Si, all 3 of them are bellissimi bambini. They are very popular, signor. Some people will pay £10 for one ride.
£10? That's more than my annual stipend.
£20 a month, that is my pocket money.
Royals have all the luck.
I got up there for free, I did. Paid the old I work for Her Majesty's police card, you know.
Detectives have all the luck. So, if they're so popular, why would you only be operating such a small number of balloons, though?
Because if I have too many in the sky, they will crash into each other.
The operators for the balloons were decided by lots, with each operator manning a particular area.
See, and the zone about the public's experimentation stage is the most profitable. But other impresarios, they hate me.
Thank you, witness. I think the court has a clear picture of the arrangement for the balloon rides and the exhibition. Perhaps we could hear more about what you actually witnessed in the incident.
Right? I can feel you in my road. There's this huge bang on the stage, and then the next second another bang on the sky beside us.
Hold it!
So you actually saw the accident happen from up there in the air.
Yup, isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, though, being a loyal's mug game, you should join the force and we can go flying together.
You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway, could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think?
Everything. We saw everything because we were up so high above all. That dodgy cove climbing into the cage, and that dodgy professor pulling in them levers. And that's when it happened, and that's when there was that massive bang and the cage disappeared, just like that.
Oh, you're describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by electricity, I believe.
I didn't know what to make of it, but then there was another bang right in my ear. I looked around, and there was a huge great fireball right next to us in the sky, and there was nothing there before.
Excuse me.
Mr. Gotts, does your memory of the day differ?
My teacher at elementary school said that when you've been something for the first time, you should always use your full name.
Yes. What was it again?
Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmund Ornstein.
For the love of God, can we have acronyms submitted into the courtroom yet? Just the 4 names, then. The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark, perhaps?
Oh, get it right, Odo. It's Inspector Lestrade.
Why does everyone have a problem with how I addressed him at this moment?
That is not what I saw.
Oh?
Yeah, there was a second explosion and it was right beside a balloon. That is true. But I'm sure.
Which is what I said in it. 1 minute there was nothing, next minute a massive explosion.
My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you will have the most awful life imaginable.
Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy? Yes, can't you see how much you love balloons? He's a joyous kid.
Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky.
A green balloon?
You what? I never saw nothing like that.
That I did. I saw it, and you can't say I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I am Bohemian Prince. You cannot say it is lie. That is not allowed.
Playing the bleeding royalty card, are you? Typical.
Say the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's police. In that case, young man, I will ask that you amend your formal testimony. In the interest of cordial national relations between Great Britain and Bohemia.
It was not the sky that exploded. It was the green balloons that was next to ours at the time.
Hold it!
I wish I could do a German accent, but God, I can't do one. I can't do one. A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that?
Of course I am sure. I am proud Bohemian prince. All the questions of making me boring.
I think you mean bored.
Och, English is very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far superior.
Ragazzo, it is very wrong to lie.
Lie?
Flying balloons never explode for the same reason the planets never explode. It's logico. Please, that doesn't mean logical.
If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia.
Madia.
I will have the army come and shoot all of you stupid balloons out of the sky! All of them!
Here you are, Your Highness. If only all international incidents were so easily resolved. Now that peaceful relations have been restored to our courtroom, perhaps we could return to the testimony. Did you also see the moment that the cage materialized, Mr. Lune? No, I did not see the explosion myself. However, the cage, it fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower.
Hold it!
Did you see that actually happen?
No. In reality, I did not. I saw after it hit the tower. There was a grand confusion around the stage. I ran to see what had happened. It was terrorized by the idea that one of my balloons had crashed.
I suppose they are his livelihood.
But when I looked into the sky, all my precious balloons were still there. I saw it though. I saw it slam into the tower. After all, I am a detective now.
Then tell us what you saw, Inspector Lestrade.
That's what I like to hear. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower.
Hold it!
Was it you who gave the order to keep people away?
Use a railroad though. How could it have been me? I was up in the balloon, weren't I?
Right.
So cause I weren't available, it was the boss who had to leg it over there. He was getting shoved and kicked all over by the panicking spectators as he tried to steal off the scene. It was a real sight to behold, I can tell you. Amazing.
Poor Inspector Gregson.
So anyway, I couldn't see the cage as well as cause of the smoke. And I didn't really want to see, to be honest. I was scared at my wits.
Keep it together, Inspector. The prosecution really is asserting that the demonstration was genuine. But what if it was actually some kind of switch-around trick instead? That would mean that the victim was never actually on the stage in the first place. The two explosions would have thrown everyone watching into a panic for sure. I think I need to find out more about what exactly people saw at the time. I want to do...
Hold it!
We'll press him a little bit. And then let's do what the other chatter before we did. We checked the animations. Let's check their other animations, like the kids.
Excuse me!
Master Gods, do you have something to say? Something that struck you about what you just heard, perhaps?
What I've just heard was you failing to remember my full name.
Sorry?
Which is Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmund Ornstein.
My learned friend's power to recollection are clearly abysmal. Perhaps he has forgotten where he is.
My teacher at elementary school said that if you are rude enough to forget someone's name, you will have the most awful life imaginable.
Are all Bohemians brought up to be endurers for the life of great pain? Well, it's important to listen to. So please pay attention to testimony. And then we'll press this one again.
Hold it!
and then we'll see what he does.
Excuse me.
If I may, Mr. Lune.
Ah, you like one of the balloons, eh? Prego, prego, 10 shillings for one.
No, I was gonna ask you that if your last statement bothered you for some reason.
People say things to me all the time.
Sorry?
They say avaricious, they say money grabbing, they say cheat, full of hot air, stripey swindler. If I let what people say bother me, how can I fly my balloons, huh?
Well, I think you just need to fill them up, and the gas does most of the work, really.
Allora, that is why I refuse to listen to what people say. Why should I? It is nothing good.
Well, if he doesn't listen, that explains a lot. A balloon with arms and legs, built no faculties with which to hear. There's no need to get carried away. Alright, it was not the sky that exploded, it was a green balloon that was next to ours at the time. The cage that fell in the sky. So, are we supposed to show... I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it and crashed into the tower. Are we supposed to be using his testimony and showing the remnants of this balloon, the green piece of cloth?
Objection.
No, okay. The defense will have to object to that statement, my lord. And I would have to overrule the objection count. Okay, it's just that one again. Alright, well, if it's not showing the piece of balloon... Who has a statement that would contradict them? It was an incident. It was a terrible incident. I'm only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. If they're not damaged, then what is this? There's this huge bang from the stage, and the next second another bang from the sky beside us. It was not the sky that exploded, it was a green balloon that was next to ours at the time. The cage fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower. Are we supposed to do this? Are we supposed to look at this again and go, wait, is this a balloon?
Objection.
Okay, yeah, alright, we're good. Mr. Lune, in your testimony, you said that all three of your balloons had operating at the time were undamaged.
See, that is correct. If they had been caught in the explosions, it would have been terrible.
I wonder if you might know what this is.
Ah, I think it may be. See, part of a balloon, a burnt piece of fabric of the envelope.
Sorry, the envelope?
Pardon, that is the large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made from very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want to rip when you are in the sky.
Just as I thought. This piece of cloth was found near an experimentation stage. In other words, as Master Gotts testified, a green balloon did explode that day.
Eh?
If all the balloons in the sky below the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Lune, then your statement that they were all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence.
No.
If the balloon exploded that day, why didn't the man say so?
Maybe the everyone on board was killed.
Oh no, haven't just spent 10 old pounds of experience?
Seems to me like those things crash 50% of the time anyway. The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage. The point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon.
Causing the balloon to explode? Yes, yeah, eminently plausible. No, more likely the balloon guy was willing to sell one of his balloons for a while and was willing to pay the money for it. He was probably bribed into giving out his balloon. Considering they just tried to show that he was money grubbing.
An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were.
Alright, so I think I've figured out what Van Zeeks is. Van Zieks doesn't care if his friend goes to jail for the murder. He just wants to prove that the experiment worked. Because he wants his friend to think that his hypothesis was correct. Even if it means him getting convicted. I think that's what's going on. Which is why Van Zieks is doing anything he can to say the experiment worked instead of us, which were like, no, it didn't work. Please stop acting like it worked. An unfortunate traffic accident as it were, but it changes nothing about the pertinent facts. This I cannot accept. Why not, Mr. Lune? You are suggesting that I am a liar? That persons died in the balloon incident. There is no need to get filed up, Mr. Lune. The victim was a sole fatality that day. That's right, then I prove it. Balthazar Lune is not a liar. There was no such balloon in the sky. It is impossible. You're saying it's impossible? Why? This court has more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day.
Objection!
But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon until now. My lord, the defense calls for further testimony from Mr. Lune. I concur. There is clearly more to the truth here than that meets the eye. It's imperative that we clear up the issue for this phantom balloon, I feel. Witnesses, you will give supplementary testimony about the balloons you were operating in the exhibition. Ah, grazie, my lord. Mr. Lune's balloons. As I said, Balthazar Lune is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All three of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, that would have been a catastrophe. But you can't get away from the fact that a bit of corpse was found at the scene, can you? A cop was at the yard reckoning that it's probably some debris thrown at the explosion on the stage. The stupid Ragazio was mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway.
Ah, so your assertion is that the balloon this child saw was not one belonging to you?
Si, exactamente. If he ever saw the balloon in the first place, I do not like the sound of it. It was bad for business. I have a good mind to sue the land of Bohemia.
If you attack us, we will fight back. I will be war or at war.
What happened to all-out war? Mr. Lune certainly doesn't appear to be lying. But that doesn't change the fact that the testimony and evidence are contradictory here. If the defense is unable to find fault with the witness's statement, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend. The situation has clearly changed now. I have to get to the bottom of what happened here, no matter what it takes.
Counsel, you may now cross-examine the witnesses.
Mr. Lune's balloons. As I said, Balthazar Lune is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely.
Hold it!
You couldn't just have forgotten one, maybe? Senor, I might not notice if I was given 100 lentils and one was missing. But we're talking about 3 enormous balloons. Do you believe I could make a mistake about something so grand and expensive? I took the liberty at having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have the report here. It clearly says a total of 3 balloons.
It would appear no mistake has been made, then.
Surely Mr. Strahd could have sent for such a Surely Mr. Strahd could have been sent for such a menial task. What, me? I tell you what I told the boss. A-stand kids like me can only count up to 2. Obviously that ain't true, but the boss bought it and said I'd have to go myself in that case. Haha. Alright, Gina, it's time for you to start pulling your weight. I like you, but, like, come on. Count to 3, damn you. All three of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, that would be a catastrophe.
Hold it!
It would be quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I think. On that note, Mr. Lune, tell me, what is it that keeps these balloons in the sky?
Are you an idiot?
Sorry?
That is like asking, why does a candle burn bright? It burns bright because it burns bright. And a balloon flies because it flies. What else?
It must be Italian for I don't know.
There are two types of flying balloons, hot air balloons and gas balloons. Hot air balloons work on the principle of hot air being less dense than cold air, whereas gas balloons derive their lift by using a gas that is lighter than air. See, and my balloons are filled with the magic gas, I believe.
Hydrogen. Alright, well that's why it was burned up.
Yeah, hydrogen, lighter than air but highly explosive.
Good lord!
I don't permit smoking on the cigarettes in any of my balloons. The magic gas is not like a fire. Even a small spark with static electricity could cause the entire balloon to explode. What is the matter with you, senor? All that comes out of your mouth is explosion, explosion! I tell you, my balloons are perfectly safe. They have to be, or I cannot eat. None of my balloons are exploded that day. I am completely sure. But you still say that was happened. You must show me the proof.
Alright, so Mr. Lune had 3 balloons in the air that day. If none of them were damaged, then what was the one that exploded?
But you can't get away from the fact that the burnt up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can you?
Hold it!
I was surprised to find the piece of fabric still at the scene, actually. Did you search the area surrounding the stage for clues?
Nah, I'm not into picking stuff up from the ground, me. I always work out way better diving into people's pockets instead.
So much for the new career path.
Mind you, the boss was on his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. Thing is though, the cage went crashing into the crystal tower, didn't it? That's where most of the investigating was going on. Yeah, because basically you're not having a third person keep chiming in and basically saying nothing to you half the time and just kind of reaffirming what you've already said. Like you don't have another person adding to the fucking chatter, which is helping the flow. Even so, I would have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence. Cool, listen to you. You stumbled across a balloon and suddenly you're the best investigator in the world.
Alright, Gina, I said this before, but come on, girl, you gotta start fucking doing at least a little bit of work. Come on. Do at least the bare bones. You can take your balloon rides, but if you have to count the amount of balloons at a warehouse, just count the amount of balloons at a warehouse. Pick some evidence off the ground. Come on, I know you're still a kid, but like, come on. Do a little bit. Don't do so little, now I'm not rooting for you anymore. Taking free balloon rides for fun? You know what? I'm behind that. Do that on the job all day, every day. But like, do at least a little bit, the bare minimum. Like, come on. Pardon?
Well, you ain't got a badge, have you? Like this one? I could arrest you if I wanted to. Oh, that's what you fucking think, huh? Well, guess what? I'm a lawyer.
Oh, I can't present it.
How about now? I'm a lawyer. Well, you ain't got a badge, have you? Like this one? I could arrest you with this if I wanted to.
I wouldn't put it past her.
Come to think of it, there was a talk with some scorch on the ground at the meeting that we had about the investigation. The coppers at the yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage.
Hold it!
There was considerable damage to the stage and surrounding area, wasn't there?
Yeah, some of the coves what were watching the experiment were caught in the blast and injured. Good job the old contraption didn't keel over, eh?
I hadn't even considered that. It seems there was great panic after the incident occurred. Nevertheless,
The police shouldn't have missed a torn piece of the envelope from the balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions.
Like me swiping all the fish and chips, eh?
The man's sole pleasure. None of this matters. That scrap of balloon envelope means nothing. Niente. This stupido ragazzo is mistaken. My balloons have had the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway.
Hold it!
You mean the color is wrong?
Si, senor. I do not have any green balloons in my warehouse.
And yet, a piece of green cloth was found at the scene, and is unmistakably from a balloon.
Well, I do not know how that can be. For the sake of argument, let's say that the green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question.
Why not?
There have been recreational balloon flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, but I'm sure you'd agree.
You believe it may have been from some earlier balloon accident that predates the expedition?
Si, exactamente. As the senora says, it's not from one of my balloons. Clearly this ragazzo from Bohemia is mistaken about what he saw.
Excuse me!
Is something wrong, Master Dots?
It's Master Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmund Ormstein.
It was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, something is very wrong. I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it. I swear over old Bohemia.
You can speak as much bad language as you like, but the change is nothing. If you do not have evidence, Agazo, then I must tell your parents to punish you, eh?
Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to the punishments.
Evidence? What is this evidence?
To give a simple example, young man. A photograph, for instance. Some tangible proof of what you claim.
Well, we didn't say so sooner. I have the photograph here.
Good gracious! What?
I had not been up in balloon for a little while, so I was very excited. I took lots and lots of photographs of the Crystal Tower of Bohemian exhibit, of the street of London, the hot air style of the balloon.
And the instantaneous kinesis experiment? Did you take a picture of that?
Yeah, one picture.
Really? You did take one?
But all I wanted was a ride in a balloon. I was not interested in boring experiments.
Never mind that. Can you show us the photograph?
Of course. And then you will see. You will see that I am not lying. That I did see a green balloon. Well, I see that you are too shocked to speak.
Yes. I think shocked is indeed the word, young man.
Yeah, perhaps you cannot see that was a green balloon from this photograph, but that is not my fault. That is the fault of the stupid person who made the camera.
That is one very bohemian sounding cry. Very well. The court will accept the photograph as evidence. The photograph of the balloon has been entered in the court record.
It is not my fault. It's the fault of the person who made the camera.
Well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful sepia memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take the photograph? Speaking of which...
Okay. So, yeah. So, the crossbow fired... Okay, so... The reason why they found it there... So, nobody shot the bolt into his chest here. They shot the bolt, hit the balloon popped, or it caused a spark to happen, and that detonated it, and that caused the bolt to then fly down. But the screwdriver earlier was used to stab him to death. So the screwdriver was used to stab him to death. But it was then fired afterwards? Or was it fired before? Was it fired to fake the incident and drop the fake body, but it just so happened to go into his chest? Nah. There's still some like extra bits to figure out about it, but it definitely was still some kind of magic trick that they were doing here. Whoops. But yeah, that streak is a crossbow bolt being shot up, I think. Which might even very well just be the screwdriver. Because it's just, The magnifying glass doesn't really help that much. In any case, when exactly did you take that photograph?
Well, it was on the day of the big explosion.
You don't say.
When I pressed the shutter release, there was this very loud bang, and the hot wind washed over my face.
That means this photograph was taken a split second before the explosion occurred. Well, if you ask me, this black and white photograph changes nothing. I could not give the flying fig. Lovely language you picked up. As I thought, Mr. Lune's testimony doesn't quite add up. The young Bohemian boy claims to have seen another fourth balloon, but Mr. Lune vehemently denies the possibility. And it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that were in the air. Still, this inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure. As I said, Balthazar Lune does not lie. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground... Alright, this is the one, right? The point for this is... there is no passenger here. Oops.
Objection!
Unfortunately, the photograph Master Gotts took can't tell us the color of the balloon. But it can tell us something else. Something crucially important. What? It shows that the pictured balloon wasn't carrying any passengers. Oh, my goodness, you're right. But surely all the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would be no sense in it otherwise.
See, they are for pleasure, for seeing the view. My balloons only fly with passengers.
Which tells us that the pictured balloon isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon in the skies above the experimentation stage. The mysterious green balloon.
I know nothing, niente. I only know one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine.
Objection!
There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly, one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the Great Excavation, and managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Lune's patch without him realizing.
See. The compitazone trying to steal my profits. I did not know this because of the experimento that went wrong on the stage.
His fourth balloon exploded at the very same moment Mr. Asman was beamed from the stage below.
Right? So them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them the scorch marks, they didn't come from the stage at all? It was bits of the balloon raining down?
But because no one was within it, it didn't get no attention? A mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers, silently floating over the experimentation stage.
Objection!
This photograph shows us nothing more. The stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader clearly has nothing to do with the case. Its relevance does elude me, I must say. Also, I don't want to eat my words in a couple minutes, but do you know what else hasn't shown up in this case yet, Stormpike? That's made this go a lot better. And I hope they don't ruin it now that I've mentioned it. The jury hasn't suddenly come to a fucking conclusion, and we had to waste time doing the jury bullshit. I really hope we can ignore that and not do it like 3 times in a case like the last one. I really hope that's like one time only later on. But so far that has also helped, not randomly stopping this section of the trial and just everybody saying he's guilty and then having to go against that and then go back to it. But yeah, it's probably going to happen right the fuck now.
This relevance does elude me, I must say.
The court has seen sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded. Yeah. I know I said it on time. I know. Really? Have we really got to the truth yet? I love how they're just about to go against everything I'm happy with right now, and they're like, no, fuck it. We're going to stop it all. No, I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jurors' minds are made up. And not... The jurors haven't said a fucking word. What else can this photograph tell us? Is there nothing more I can learn from it? There's more. But there's more.
Objection!
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait. Please don't give your decisions yet. The photograph from Master Gods may well be hiding one more vital clue.
What is that?
The vital clue.
Objection!
A vital clue? We're all past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definitives now, so tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? The balloon's owner, the balloon's color, the cause of the explosion. We can reasonably assume that the pictured balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of the explosion.
Yeah, that is right, yeah. It was not my fault.
Evidently, because the bird cage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. And the balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly and explosively ignited.
Objection!
No, that's not what happened. What?
It would appear that this photograph requires a closer examination. Counsel for the defense, you will highlight the location of this alleged clue in the photograph for the court.
Of course, my lord. If you look closely, it's plain enough to see. And what's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have. In a way, that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. The clue that heavily suggests the real reason the balloon exploded is...
Take that!
The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. If you look, you'll notice there's a bright white line that appears in front directly of the balloon. Most likely a ray of light caught incidentally on the film.
I'm afraid I can see nothing more of the sort.
If you look with a magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of this bright line really is.
Goodness, what is that? Undeniably some flash of light, yes.
Oh, golly, do you think that might be lightning?
But it couldn't have been a finer day.
Well, I believe we may be looking at fire.
A bolt of fire heading straight for the balloon, like an arrow. Indeed, even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be a flame of some sort. My word, are you suggesting this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon? Objection!
That's absurd. The balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly have reached such a height.
Objection!
Actually, it's my opinion that a particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals how exactly what happened. What evidence?
If such evidence exists, counsel, then for goodness sake, present it, man. Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to be headed directly for the balloon?
Take that!
Oh, no, nothing really. Just this entire crossbow. The true nature of the curious, slim streak of light is revealed by this.
A curious answer. With a slim chance of being the...
What? What? What do you mean? Huh? It looks somewhat like a piece of firework, but whereas fireworks dazzle their audience, you fizzle out, then remarkably What? What? Yeah, do I have to... What? What? Wild? What? Is it just a screwdriver? Are we just saying it's a screwdriver? Insults dressed into the colorful metaphors are still insults. But anyway, this firework display isn't over yet.
If such evidence exists, counsel, for the goodness sake, present a man. Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to be headed exactly for the balloon?
Yeah, here we go. Literally the entire thing has no data on it until you click there. Ah, there's some sort of lever here. There we go. Okay. What is it? It's weird because I was going over the entire thing, but only the latch counted. Okay. It looks as though a cross between a bow and a gun. I think it's probably used for the same thing, too. There we... Okay. That's why I was like going over the whole thing, being like, why doesn't any of this trigger? I had to click the latch to open it, and now it counts. This groove here must be where the arrows are loaded, I suppose. So I was right. It's sort of a bow with an automatic firing mechanism. This would be perfect for someone like me who catches his ear with the bowstring 2 times out of 3. In fact, if I had one of these, maybe I could have beaten Cosma in Kyoto archery training. It looks like you wind this around in order to draw the bowstring back and create tension. You must be able to fire arrows with a huge amount of force using this device then. In fact, I would imagine it's far more accurate and powerful than a Japanese longbow. Ugh, I really had no idea I was picking up when I spotted this at the expedition grounds. Okay, now it should be fine.
Take that!
There we go, okay. This was found hidden at the foot of a small ornamental tree near the scene.
Good lord, is that a crossbow?
An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon. What are you suggesting? That crossbow was used to deliberately...
Blimey, you're right. That streak of light in the photo looks just like an arrow, didn't it?
Then, the explosion of the balloon, it was... sabotage. Very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow igniting the hydrogen gas inside.
No! Order! Order! Counsel, this is extraordinary expedition.
If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter would have used a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason that would have been out of the question. The noise of the discharge, of course. That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired at the balloon silently.
Well, yeah. If someone had shot a gun off the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a little panic.
But with the big explosion, there was a very big panic anyway, no? but everybody was looking away from who shot it. I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation for all of this, but something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implications of what you're saying, my Nipponese friend? If a flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon, then obviously it would have exploded, and that the birdcage appeared from the cloud of smoke that ensued.
What? Wait a minute. What are you really saying here? I don't get it. Was the birdcage beamed up into the sky after all? Or what?
My goodness me!
Ah, now I understand. That's what the sinking feeling is about. We're proving that the experiment was fake, that the birdcage was inside the balloon all along. I think there's a good chance that the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along.
What? Did I just hear that correctly, Counsel?
There's no going back now. The horse is bolted. Remember, as they say, bolt the bird. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage and instantaneous kinesis machine disappeared into a cloud of smoke. At that moment, the flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of the spectators to the sky above their heads. From amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared to fall down from the crash into the crystal tower. I think you'll all agree it's entirely plausible that what I've just described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried out that day.
Good grief!
Objection!
This is ludicrous. What you described is no science experiment. It's a child's play, a contemptible display of stage magic. Both Mr. Sholmes and Iris said that the experiment was scientific impossibility, in which case, there is only one way to explain what happened that day. Then in any case, the victim's body was found inside the birdcage on the crystal tower. If the instantaneous kinesis didn't take place, how do you explain that? If I may put in a word, as a man of magic myself, such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by simple deception. Juror number 3? You know how it's not just Chekhov's wax museum, it's Chekhov's magician in the jury. All that would be needed is a doppelganger, someone who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Asman. And having this other man appear on stage in front of the show, that's a body double. Ah, yes, of course. So in fact, Mr. Asman must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon right from the start.
Objection!
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the four winds when it exploded. No one would ever have embarked on such a risky venture.
Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon gas would very much depend on the mixture ratio.
Juror number 4.
Flying balloons are rarely...
Also Chekhov's scientist on the jury.
Flying balloons are rarely filled with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of other gases, such as helium as well. Helium of its own doesn't explode, but by controlling the gas mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered.
The mixture ratio.
Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns. That would be unavoidable. But not to such an extent as to render the whole obscene charade impossible.
But there's no burns on the bodies left, so it's bullshit. Fuck you. So everything that happened can be explained logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all part of an elaborate deception to make it appear that instantaneous kinesis had occurred.
Well, goodness me.
And if we accept that as what happened, it means that the victim, Mr. Asman, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with.
Ugh.
In short, he couldn't have been killed by the defendant, who was on stage in full view the entire time.
Ah!
Yeah, true. Half the jurors in all the other cases were they were constantly voting guilty. Half of them didn't want to be there. They were just fucking around. And on this case, the science guy has chimed in multiple times, giving good like actual key witness testimony. Not key witness testimony, but I can't. What's the fucking term? Because they specialize in their field. I can't. There's supposed to be a word that goes with this, and I can't fucking think with it. But he's giving I literally it escaped my brain. But he's actually giving good testimony. The wizard's giving good the magician's giving good expert opinion. There you go. He's giving his expert testimony. Yes. Like they actually have experts who are giving their you're actually getting expert testimony on this shit. Like this is like, all right, this is solid. And the sleeping old man hasn't been like, oh, why are we saying he's guilty? Well, I was kind of asleep, so fuck it, they're guilty. I just don't want to be here. I don't want to be here anymore. He's guilty. Can we get the fuck out of here? This is going to be hard for the prosecution to counter. Lord Van Zieks can't credibly maintain that Professor Hairbrain is a suspect now.
Hold it! Mr. Naruto, well, I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Professor?
But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please.
Sorry?
What's all this about?
Mr. Hairbrain.
I, Albert Hairbrain, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Odie Asmund. Yes, it was me, with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver.
Yeah, he desperately wants his thing to be real, so he's yeah. He doesn't understand that he was being scammed by the other guy.
Order! Order! Order!
Defendant, explain this sudden confession. Professor Haybrain, what are you talking about?
It's what I said all along. I must protect my hypothesis, my precious machine. You stabbed there and claimed it was all a trick, an elaborate prank, but where's your proof? No, you'd have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would all be over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it.
It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were duped, Professor. If you'll just let me...
Barack!
Yes?
I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever you say. I swear it. So please, ensure the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act is adhered to and protect my creation.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hollow chalice at this critical juncture. Here's to my learned Nipplene's friend. What? And his upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in the light of the accused's confession. Do you intend to formally assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because, the moment you do, the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. The prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machinery involved in order to establish the truth. However, if you acknowledge that the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, any chance of investigating will be crushed, and the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved. What? I mean, okay, look. The thing about this that I understand what they're trying to do, but if he was arrested and sentenced because he murdered
this other guy, I don't think that his patent would just sit around. Like, I don't think they would just let his patent sit around forever. Right? There's no way the British government is going to be like, oh, well, we have to respect the patent law. They'd be like, no, this kid apparently teleport people. Fuck that. We're stealing the shit out of this. We'll execute him and he'll be fucking dead because he murdered somebody and then we can just take it. So I understand why they're doing this. But, you know, like little like aside, been like, yeah, if this was actually tried and people thought this was real, they would fucking revoke it and just take it right away. The government would just steal it anyway, so who gives a fuck? Oh, counsel, what is the defense official position on the matter? But they're doing this for the story. Like, they're trying to put me in like a specific jam. To defend him or not to defend him, what do I do? Even if the defendant does not want to be defended, will I defend him? What Professor Harebrain, my client, actually asked of me was to prove that the explosion on stage was an accident to protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Do I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I uphold my client's request to see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust. You have been silent long enough. Isn't talking your trade, my learned friend. I'm assuming this is when Iris is going to pop in with our special guest. Oh, has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind? This is Naruto. There's no escape here. I have to make a choice. But it's an impossible one. I have to give up on something, but what? The defense asserts that the defendant's instantaneous kinesis machine was in fact... Alright, so my guess is I can choose whatever I want, and it's going to get interrupted with something else happening. Oh! So... I can understand both sides of this one. Like, he would rather be found guilty of murdering somebody, but with the fact that he is still a smart scientist, and that something he's put so much of his life in wasn't a waste of time. But, you know, being like, nah, bro, I don't care. I don't want you to just die just because you're trying to cover up in something that you can't see was flawed. But then again, my client is literally asking me, please, I'm going to take the fall. So as someone who would say I'm a lawyer, even though Naruhodo probably would pick the conjuring trick, I'm going to pick the option where I respect my client's wishes. Unless this is the wrong choice and it game overs me. Oh, yeah, you're right. Fuck. Oh, because this could just do an instant case over. Fuck. Yeah, you're right, Stormpike. Shit. God damn it. God damn it. No, I can't say it. My client places faith in me. I just can't let him down. What must I give up on? It's not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's what can I protect?
Oh, hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long.
Sasato-san?
But what?
Hey-ya!
Oh, my first Sasato takedown in 6 months. Yeah, my guess is no matter which one I chose, the same exact thing would have happened.
There'll be time to talk later, Mr. Naruhodo. For now, we must concentrate on the task at hand.
Which is working out not what I have to give up on, but what I can protect. Professor Harebrain.
Yes?
Yesterday you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth too.
Yes, of course.
And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Asman. I think you've come to realize something yourself too, haven't you? That your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we must both pursue now. Whoa! Yeah, if the thing you work towards isn't real and it was fake, then you can't just force it to be real. You have to actually go back and do the science and get it right, dude. You can't just put your head in the sand and ignore it. Like, oh, definitely, bro, it really would have worked. So you finally opened your eyes. What? And as for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say? Brock. Lord Van Zeeks? Gosh! I never heard him speak that way before.
In truth, there is one thing. Something I remembered of the relevance.
What?
Well, the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. The man holding that crossbow.
I beg your pardon? Professor, did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like?
Taller than me and, thinner than me, with straight hair, straighter and whiter than mine. Let me see. One less lens than my two, a monocle, rather stylish, a black monocle. But one thing in particular will help positively identify the man, you see. I know him very well.
He's the engineer.
Well, after all, he's the engineer who built my invention.
Yeah! At this point, I think he's thrown that glass bottle 4 times. I think he's killed 4 people in the fucking gallery. What? He built the machine?
Well, that's right. Mr. Asman introduced him to me a year ago. He's a man by the name of Enoch Drebber.
Enoch Drebber? Does this mate? Wow, I cannot say name. Does this name mean anything to you? Members of the jury, you seem flustered. Not a name any scientist wishes to hear. The man's an abomination.
Not any name a Kenny Carter wishes to hear either.
Who on earth is he? I'm afraid this isn't the first tale of his nature that I've heard of scientific circles in connection with her name. There's talk of another flamboyant experiments that turn out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government's research grant money.
When magicians are in need of money, I have heard of them resorting to these underhanded tricks. Some acquaintances of mine with the experience of such things have mentioned Enoch Drebber's name before.
The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we're both dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. That's Enoch Drebber for you.
So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, it was just a grand illusion?
Considering what we've just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, I'm sorry to say it, that this sounds increasingly likely.
Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to. I wanted to believe that machine could function exactly as my hypothesis predicted.
Which is why you were so opposed to it being investigated, I presume.
Well, I knew that if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen, but at the same time, well, I knew that it was in found to be more nothing than a trick, than a work of deception, then everything I'd worked toward, all my research, all my dreams, my whole life would be over. I was terrified at the prospect.
So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built, and the true nature of Mr. Drebber.
I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it.
It's entirely possible that Mr. Asman and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as means of fraudulently acquiring the research grant money.
When I announced my adventure to the crowds that day, it was the finest moment of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned all the dials in exactly the way Drebber had described. Then the smoke suddenly started billowing out, and panicked. I didn't know what was happening. But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything anymore.
Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you now consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act?
Yes, please go ahead. I'm very sorry.
It would appear that we have to suspend the proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Lord Van Zeeks.
My lord,
The court has newly begun to be made aware another party whose involvement in this matter is critical.
yes, Mr. Drebber.
Gather information about the man, if possible. I should like him served with subpoena.
With pleasure, my lord.
Now, counsel for the defense.
Yes, my lord.
When we convene, I shall be looking for one thing, and one thing alone, from you. The evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he presently stands accused.
I understand.
Good. In that case, this court is adjourned until tomorrow morning.
Alright, so far, I gotta say, after going through the last case was probably the worst case we have done in this entire game. In part 1 and 2, the case we did last time was definitely the worst case so far. And this case, I'm really enjoying so far. Mostly because we didn't have to do the thing where we, like I said, we didn't have to stop the jury and get them to reconsider. So we didn't have to deal with jury bullshit. And the jury was only helpful. And it's been actually moving at a pretty good pace. Like, the pacing compared to the last case was... This pacing is currently godly. Last case was awful, and it had really weird jumps in logic. The only weird one for this one was the fact that I had to, like, uncompact the crossbow at one specific area, but that's just... Oh, well, I should have clicked around more, I guess. So... Alright, well, I don't know if it's going to stop it here, but I'm going to stop it here, because this is a good place to save. Even if it makes me save and it says so right after this, it's fine. I'm going to stop here anyway. And tomorrow, tomorrow I will most likely be... I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I may have things to do tomorrow. I am unsure. At the very least, I'll be back to Thursday during the day. I do not know about tomorrow. But this is a good place to stop this. We're going to have a new witnesses come in and we're going to get more information. But yeah, so far this is one of my favorite trials so far. This is definitely one of my favorite trials so far. Yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll be back maybe tomorrow. Definitely Thursday. We'll continue some more Ace Attorney. I'm looking forward to finishing off this case because, like I said, so far this is one of the best. This is one of the best trials we've done so far. I really like that they cut out a lot of the clutter,
And I have no idea what the fuck they were thinking with the last trial. They filled the last trial full of all the constant bullshit just to not put it in this one, making this case better. But that last case was really difficult to sit through. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll be back maybe tomorrow, definitely Tuesday, or definitely Thursday. Anyway, have a good night, everyone. I guess I'll save again.